Hey everyone, old school Pokemon here, back again with podcast episode number 47, joined by my usual co-host, Catch 'em All Collectibles, Dan. And today we have a very special guest joining us, TCA Gaming, Rusty. Thank you for joining us today, Rusty. How are you guys both doing?
Doing very well over here.
Awesome. So, Rusty, if you just want to give a quick little intro in case anyone in the chat isn't familiar with you, I'm sure most people are.
Yeah, we found this guy randomly, small channel. You know, we figured we'd give him a shot in the spotlight. So tell us about yourself.
Hey y'all, I'm Rusty. I go by TCA Gaming. Do a little bit of YouTube, a little bit of Instagram, but mostly I'm just a collector who's been buying and selling to further my collection for the past 14 years, 10 years full time.
It's hard to believe it's already been that long. So I originally got in right around the time that you started. I think you started a few years earlier than I did.
Yeah, I think I talked about it we've been doing this podcast for coming up on 2 years now. It's crazy to think. But I think I mentioned it in a podcast a long time ago. I almost re-entered the hobby in like 2011 or 2010. I remember I found my binder. I went on eBay and I bought the couple cards that I was missing. I was right on there. I was looking at what the cards were worth. I think I bought like a Clefable Unlimited for Jungle, Hollow that I hadn't gotten when I was younger, a couple random cards. And it took me like 3 more years to really fully dive in 2014. Had I gotten in back then, I always kind of think like, what if? How much bigger would I be? Would I have gone full time sooner? Crazy to think how that happened. But yeah, as we usually do, we're just gonna hang out. I think we have Rusty for about 2 hours. Nick and I will be with you for about 3.5. So we did have a few questions from the last episode, but I almost think it's better to just hang out with the chat, and then Nick and I can get to those later, just since we have the limited time with Rusty. I don't think they weren't geared specifically towards Rusty, because we didn't even know until a couple days ago we were gonna have this set up. So yeah, feel free to leave your questions in the chat and we'll jump right into it. And Nick and Rusty, feel free, if you guys see any you want called out, if you have any topics you want to chat about, we can hop right into those too.
Yeah, while people are thinking of questions, I know we already have a few in there, but we could start out with the whole packing slip debate. I know you over there, Dan, like doing your packing slips.
So just to talk
on the other hand, not so much.
To talk you through my method, like this morning, I had 26 items to ship. So what I do is I go into eBay, I select all, and I go to print packing slip, and then I have a stack of 26, which I then print out my 26 shipping labels, and then I collate them together because I have 2 stacks of 26 that need to be like, I need to put them all with the appropriate packing slip. That's how I go and pull my items. Otherwise, all I have is an address and a name. How do I pull my item from that? Like, I guess my question would just be, do you use the pick list, or how do you pull the 26 specific slabs that you need to pull to ship? And then how do you ensure ultimately at shipping that you didn't like mix 2 of them up? That's always my main concern.
You talking to me?
Yeah, I guess I know a little bit from Nick because Nick has talked about it. He actually made a video about it specifically. Yeah, if you want to talk me through what you do, Rusty.
Okay, get a hammer. All right. So what I do now, I transitioned to this after they screwed up shipping. I used to do each one individually. But pretty much now I make sure I have all my questions answered. Nobody wants to change any addresses. Stuff doesn't need to be, combined, didn't want to combine, all that stuff. Once I make sure all of my messages are good, I've got a bookmark for bulk ship. I click that, and that'll pull up every single order that needs to be shipped. Some that may be more complicated, I might remove, or if it's, there's certain ones that I might pull out. But for the most part, I'm going to ship everything all at once. I'm going to go through every one of those orders. I'm going to check the weight, make sure everything matches, because I have everything preset to 4 ounces. So anybody who bought one PSA graded card or CGC or something like that, it's going to be fine in that 4 ounces. If they bought quantity 2, it's going to bump it up to 8, which is fine. That's what I want to buy. If it's at 3 or more, then I might have to adjust it down to 12 ounces or something, or 8 ounces or 12 ounces or over a pound. I might have to change up some of the booster boxes to priority or whatever, but it'll take about 3 or 4 minutes to go through, 100 orders like that. Now it gets a little confusing if I have consignment stuff, but if there's consignment stuff, I just Control F CS. And when I do that, I can go through and just mark all the prices for the consignments. But as long as there's nothing there for consignment, then I mean, it might take 3 minutes to just get all the package weights and like the package service carriers, that kind of stuff, all adjusted right there in the beginning. And then I pretty much go up to the top and hit ship, or preview, and then hit ship, and then it'll print every single one of those labels out in a single roll. I think it'll do at most 100 at a time. So some mornings I have to do it 2 and 3 times, but you'll go through those 100 orders. It'll take you to another page, and you can print the labels, and you can actually look at each order, and it has the name, it has the weight on it, quantity, has the item itself. And I carry my laptop over to my wall where I keep most of the stuff. And I go to the bottom, I rip off the first label, and I look and see what it is. If it was, a Mew number 8 PSA 10, I grab one of those, sit on top of the label. I don't ever do the pack and slip thing. I mean, I get a lot of customers who they do not send with a pack and slip. But
it's a gift.
I don't need to put it in there anyways. A lot of people don't want it, so I'm not worried about it. So I'm not. To me, that's just a whole extra step where you're wasting ink. I can see what the order is on my computer, and then once I ship it, I'm never going to look at it again.
And see, that's one thing. With me on like the buying side, I always like to get them. Not so much lately, but more like a year or two ago when I was buying a lot more on eBay. I would buy 50 things on eBay, all in the same night, all in the same week. They'd all come in, and the way that I like keep track of what's come in and what hasn't come in, I leave feedback. So say I'm buying like 50 of a given promo card or whatever. I might be buying that from 10 different people, and I don't know whose is whose. Unless you have to look at the return address, and sometimes you can find out from the return address. Sometimes you can find out if they leave a business card, it's the same as their eBay name. But like, I guess so. Part of the reason that I do it is from the buyer side. I like them, but it's funny you say that. I think you mentioned in your comment on our last episode that packing slips can only hurt you, because one of my 2 negative feedback that's currently on my eBay is because somebody requested that I not include a packing slip because it was a gift. And then I accidentally put one in it still, and so I got a negative feedback, which I earned. I mean, I said that I could omit the packing slip, and then I forgot to, so I'm wearing my negative that I earned. But I'll have to rethink it. Maybe I'll try it for a couple days. And I mean, you guys are doing. If you guys can do it with 100 plus, I'm only doing 10 to 20 most days. It's not like too cumbersome. It's not crazy. So maybe I'll be swayed there.
Well, I didn't even do it when before, when I didn't have tracking on 90% of the orders. I didn't put packet slips in then either. To me, that's the only reason you would truly want to, is just to make sure that they can identify it with whatever package it is in, because I'm already going to stick a business card in there, so they're going to know it's from me, and it's going to have a tracking number. So if they search by that in their purchase history, then they're going to be able to tell us from me as well.
I might be being swayed, because if I could get rid of this laser printer beside me, the label printers are so much smaller and compact, so I'll have a little bit more desk space freed up if I can move that laser printer.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, I might have to. I do it similar to you, Rusty, where I go on my iPad and stack everything that sold that day, and then I bring everything over to my computer, double check everything. So I'll take that first card, check the little box, and then go all the way through, check all the boxes, and then print all the shipping labels. But I might look into switching it up to do how you do it, where you just you print all the labels right from the beginning, and then you go back and package everything. I kind of like that idea.
It's a pretty quick system, but I mean, I don't know how much time that would save you versus going the other way. I've never really done it that way, but you could potentially be saved in some time if there's an order messed up and you can't fulfill it. Typically, I might run into those here and there, but because I deal mostly in graded cards, it's going to happen to me a bit less often than I think it would with somebody who's doing a mass volume for raw cards.
One thing that One thing that I always find funny is just like the random little things that you wouldn't think of. Everyone has their own process. And like when I hear of someone packing orders, I just mentally think that everyone does it the way that I do. But when you hear it differently, when you hear how people do it differently, when you see them do it when they put it in a video, sometimes just random things pop out. And yeah, I mean, I've actually gotten negative feedback. I looked back over some of my orders around Christmas. There was one or two that they asked. They didn't send a message, but they left a note at checkout. Hey, please don't include a packing slip. I know I did. So I probably have another negative feedback coming. Um, but yeah, I think back to like our podcast with James, Z&G Emporium, not realizing that he could like use his reseller's permit to like not pay sales taxes on eBay. Some of those funny things.
That was crazy.
Yeah, like I think it's like a lot of people are probably listening right now. I can't believe these three guys are talking about packing slips, but you just never know like what things might pop up. And yeah, it's always interesting to see what comes up and what other little tips and tricks that someone's doing that you wouldn't think about that you like. I'm not going to commit to it 100%, but it's fairly likely that I stop using packing slips moving ahead because it actually makes sense.
Well, it's nice if you do everything together because like you can have those labels printing in the background while you're going through just finding orders, and you can do your little stack method to get, maybe 10, 20 of those orders already ready. And then you just tear them off. And then you're just, each label you tear off, you've already got everything ready for you. I mean, it doesn't take long to get the orders together.
Yeah, I'll give it a try tomorrow morning. It'll be my first trial run, I guess, and see if I run it for 2023. But we do have
I like it.
We probably have a nice backlog of questions in the chat, so we'll start working through them. Garen M asks, since you're all here, what is one piece of advice for a first-time eBay seller about to receive his first PSA submission back? First-time eBay seller about to receive first PSA submission back. I think if you haven't ordered one yet, I think either a scanner. I believe Rusty uses a scanner. I forget if Nick uses a scanner or pictures, but whatever you do, just do it consistent. I think it's a professional look to either have like a photo box with a background or to have a scanner. Whatever you do, have them all look the same way and just get a nice high quality photo or scan of front and back and have consistency. Me personally, when I sell a PSA item, I sell it, I never do like a create new listing. I always sell similar. So say I'm selling a Shadowless Chansey PSA 9. I'll do the whole thing. I'll list it out. You go to items and specifics, PSA, items specifics, grade 9. You go through all that base set. I don't do all of them. There are way too many for me. But then say I move to a Jungle Pincer PSA 8. Now you change PSA 8, you change Jungle Pincer in the title, change the set number, go through, change Jungle, you change, like a lot of the things are the same, but some things have to change. And yeah, I mean, you create one listing, create it well. I would look at Nick's listings. Look what's in his description. Look what's in his condition description. Don't copy paste, but like get an idea for your own format. Get an idea. Mine's fairly generic. Look at the photo for pictured card condition. You want to stay fairly generic. You don't want to over specify too much because if you put too much in there, a buyer might end up having a bad time from that. They might be expecting something more than you're giving, or yeah, you might over specify and forget to change that in your next listing. I guess those are just some quick tips that I'd give for starting that up. Enable GSP because GSP is a godsend for international shipments. I would say that as well. Anything to add, Rusty?
Yeah, I think just to touch on the taking pictures part, or scanning, taking pictures, whatever you do, I would actually recommend making sure that you put a watermark on there too. Not so that people don't steal your pictures, but more so that when somebody does see that, they're going to associate you with whatever that watermark is, because you never know when somebody might be looking that particular item up in a video on Pokemon Price or PSA's auction results, over the next week, month, 2 years from now through Google. There's places like that people are going to visit often. And then, if you have that watermark on your picture, they might just notice that, and they might not take a note of it and be like, oh, this is who sold it. But they might have a mental note that if they see it over and over again, it's just going to put your name kind of out there. I would make sure that you have business cards. I would make sure that when you ship PSA graded cards that you use a box. A lot of times I used to use just a bubble mailer, and I would find that sometimes they would get damaged. It's a lot easier to damage a bubble mailer versus something like in a box. You can still ship a PSA graded card inside of one of the small number 000 or 000 bubble mailers and put that inside of a 7x4x2 white corrugated box and ship it for under 4 ounces. The exact same postage cost. The only thing you're going to be adding in there is that extra 30 or 40 cents that you're paying for that box. But it could help save you in the long run, not having to buy insurance or whatever, because it's less likely that something's going to happen to it. I say that as I just had an ancient Mew that was destroyed somehow in a box. You know, it had it wasn't destroyed, but it had a crack on it, and I didn't get any pictures of that thing. But I would just recommend that. I remember I sent out a PSA 9 Venusaur one time and just a bubble mailer. It was a first edition. It got cracked. Actually, the card was almost bent in half by the time it got back to me. You know, it's a big L at that time. Nowadays, you know, it's only like $100 compared to, you know, over $1,000 what it's worth. But it's, you know, a way that you can prevent loss, kind of like changing your oil. You know, this is a cheap preventative measure versus one that, you know, you might have to do over and over again that would cost you a higher amount. But you also, you know, sometimes this stuff doesn't add up, you know, where you're making all these extra preventative measures, you know, putting in that extra cost, and maybe keep up with, you know, how much your cost basis is, and, you know, where you're buying the stuff. Because if you can't buy it in bulk, those boxes, instead of being 30 or 40 cents, they might end up being, you know, 60, 75 cents, or even you know, upwards of $1.
So you use those boxes for any graded card? Because for me, I do if it's $200 or more, I'll do the box, but anything under 200 goes in the bubble mailer, just because it's a lot quicker.
Use a cardboard sheet. You guys won't see it right now, but I'm holding it up on stream. I fold it around and then I put that in a quad zero and then a double zero. And I do that all the way up to 750, and then at 750 I go in a box. I think I've only had 2 issues ever. And one of them, I'm pretty certain that the guy was just mad and wanted to return the item, so he just took the slab and cracked it. I do know the boxes Rusty's talking about, and I did buy 100 when he talked about them in a video. I like them. It's just like, I guess this is a question from me to you, Rusty. Approximately, like when you have 200 items, or let's say 100 items, how long does it take you to ship 100 items typically? And that'll obviously vary between slabs and boxes, but like on average, do you have an idea, like filling 100 orders, what's your packing time?
Just the packing time. You know, if it was me, a lot of times my mom does it, so that's something that I have help with. My wife does it as well, but typically they're working on the shipping less than an hour, I would say. My wife, she's really fast. I'm pretty fast too. My mom, she's consistent and she can get in there, and time's not as big of an issue. But rarely do I ever, you know, even if I start at 8 o'clock, which is like a late morning, rarely do I ever have, you know, mail that's not come back, you know, from the post office by, you know, a late lunch. But typically it's there before lunchtime. Sometimes we even have to wait before, you know, they can even open up. So, I mean, it doesn't take that long if you kind of get in a rhythm or you prepare them. Because I don't know if you've seen those guys at like Pizza Hut or wherever. I mean, it doesn't take any time at all to fold something like this. You know, there is a cost. Like that box is definitely going to cost more than an extra bubble mailer and you know, a piece of cardboard. I would assume it would anyways. But it's relatively time-wise, it's pretty quick.
I know for me personally, it's 1.5 to 2 minutes per order. And typically for me, like my average morning is like maybe 15 orders. So it's like 30 minutes. And that's probably, I always try to estimate things a little high. I can photograph, because I'm still doing photographs for now, but maybe I'll look into scanning too. I have a scanner, I've thought about it. But 2 items I can photograph a minute, that's front back. So 2 slabs a minute to photograph, usually a little under a minute to list, and then about 2 minutes to pack and ship. So that's the way I like to think about it. Like the all-in time to photograph, list, and then pack and ship an item is 3 to 4 minutes. I can process like 15 items an hour, all in, like all sides of the transaction.
Gotcha.
That's just the way that I break it down mentally.
About right for me.
Now, listing items, it depends on whether or not I'm doing buy it nows or auctions, because now that eBay's kind of screwed up the item specifics and it takes forever to change the grade and the grading company and all that stuff, I don't even do it anymore. Like I don't do, like, the only ones that I put in item specifics are ones that I don't change pretty much ever. So for auctions, all I have to do is change the title and then I hit list, and I'll go back through and I will schedule them all out. Like, so if I had one consignee who had 50 items on auction, I'll have a specific 2-letter thing or 3-letter thing in the titles. I could search by schedule for that, and then I'll hit reschedule, and it'll take like 5 seconds to reschedule everything. So all in all, like, I can get listings done in 30 seconds or so when I'm doing auctions. Now, if I'm doing buy it nows and I have to look up the price, that usually doubles it, if not more. It just depends on what the card is, because sometimes the titles can get a little long and you want to squeeze in different words and you can't. And other ones, are super easy. Like the old WotC ones, when it was base, hollow, rare, jungle, all that stuff, you can always fit in everything that you want. But then until you get to like Gym Challenge and you're like Lieutenant Surge's Raichu Gym Challenge first edition holographic rare Pokemon card, it's like something's got to come out of there. And but some cards, when I'm listing stuff from like, if it's a different game other than Pokemon, because like I've had some Star Wars and some soccer, and you got to look up cards and what the refractors are and all that stuff. Sometimes it can get pretty long for those kind of deals. But I don't know. I think 3 to 4 minutes is a good estimate. I would think that it's a little bit less for me, but honestly, it would just depend on what item it is, because some items are pretty obscure too. Like if I'm having to take pictures of like a Mario Pikachu box and take pictures of the contents and do extra scans, and that's going to take a lot longer because I'm going to have to go and weigh it as well, make sure I get the price and the dimensions of the box right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and 99% of what I sell personally, I know you guys do a little bit more, but 99% of what I sell on my eBay is just slabs. It's just PSA slabs. So for me, it's a bit easier. Anytime, as I said, when I do a new listing, I'm always selling similar. So if I have a CGC slab, I sell similar off a CGC. And I try, like if it's a CGC 9, well, right now in front of me, I have a PSA 9 Celebi EX from Pop Series 2. So I would just go to my store, search PSA 9 EX. I know I have a bunch of them. And I'd sell similar off the closest thing. And usually I just have to change the set. But occasionally I do make errors. Occasionally I forget to change the set. Occasionally something goes wrong. The specifics are kind of annoying for that reason. But yeah, they claim that it helps a bunch to use all of them, use as many as you can. I never personally, like from the buyer side, I never use those to filter down searches. I just search what I want and then buy it.
Yeah, the only item specifics I'll do now are the required one. So Pokemon graded. I think that's set for sealed product. But all the optional ones I don't even do.
Well, I think I leave Nintendo in there. Mm-hmm. It's a Pokemon card. Like you can put that in there, like card type. You can put no for modified. There's like a few others that you can just stick in there and it'll help like boost your results. Because I get weekly analytic, like different types of results and like just specifics from my contract manager. And he's like, one of the things that they keep track of are how many item specifics you have on average for your products. And for me, it's like right at 9 item specifics. And I wouldn't have thought it would have been that high, but there's other things that they keep up with too. So I imagine if it's one of those main things that they're keeping up with, giving me feedback on, that it is probably something that does affect the search results.
Yeah. That's interesting to know.
Even like the character count for your titles, they keep up with that, like what the average is, how much you have, in a specific area. Like the average is 71 characters out of 80. Like that's what the eBay average is, at least for trading cards anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I guess this is a question that comes up for me now too, that a lot of people have been talking about since that whole eBay Seller Summit. And I don't know if you've ever heard of or watched Daily Refinement, but listing every single day, does the eBay algorithm, well, not even a question, I guess. Supposedly the eBay algorithm rewards sellers that list every day, whether it's 5 or 10, whatever it may be. Do you list every day, Monday through Sunday?
I list anytime that I can get to it. I'd like to be ideally listing every day, but like today I haven't listed anything. I've been working on daily deals and a few other things. Actually, I've been working on this too. But yeah, I can see how it does help push results, because I mean, you're constantly pushing out new products. All of your followers, I imagine a portion of them at least, are going to be getting notifications. Also, when you push out newer items, they're going to be higher in the search results as is, like even before, I've heard people talk about that. Also, I don't know if you've ever done this before, but like if you go through and look at some of your items that seemingly have not sold in months and months, if not years, and you click on them and you click on them a few times thinking you're going to revise something, but even if you're just looking at them and you don't change anything, a lot of times those items, they will sell that day or the next day. I don't know what it is. Like even when you click on your own items, it actually boosts the results sometimes. I always found that strange, but it is, it's because that happens. I would think that you just listing, stuff consistently every day, of course, that's going to boost the search results because you're putting in new products, you're putting in things that are going to make people bring in new traffic to your store if you have a store, but even just to your eBay username, just searching, looking for different items. So, I mean, it makes sense, but I haven't been told that specifically.
eBay did mention it. I forget what they called it exactly. I think it was like a seller summit. It was a few months ago now, but it's something that anecdotally, I mean, I'm one guy, I'm a small store overall, but I've been trying to list at least like 5 items every day. And some of those 6-month, 12-month plus items, they seem to be moving. They seem to be moving more. It's hard to say if it's just confirmation bias, but as you said, like I know I have some followers. Sometimes I'll be listing on eBay at like 2 at night, 2 in the morning, because whatever my schedule is for that week or day. And somebody will message me on Discord like, "Whoa, why are you up so late listing things?" So people do definitely get those notifications if they follow my store, if they ring the bell, the equivalent bell of like the whole YouTube thing. The whole eBay algorithm kind of reminds me of the conversations that go around the YouTube algorithm.
Yeah. I think there is definitely I think that definitely is a thing where if you list consistently, your sales are going to do better than like versus like listing one day a week. I think it's definitely better to space those listings out over all 5 to 7 days a week. That's
what
that's how it's been from my experience, at least.
What I've almost universally done is when I get a 200 card submission back or a 500 card submission back, I'll photograph them all in one day, and then I'll list them all in a couple other days. So I literally, for 2022, if I had to guess, I probably averaged the days that I listed. I listed like 200 items, and I was listing maybe once every other week. So for 2023, I'm gonna try to like spread it out more, make it part of my daily routine between 8 and 9 a.m., whatever the time slot ends up being. I try to just list at least 10 items every day and just see if that changes, see how that goes. I think you lose out a little bit on efficiencies because if you sit down and do a certain task for 8 hours long, I think you are more productive than doing it in 8 1-hour chunks because you're sat down, you've got all your images ready to go, you're in that mindset, you're like rolling. I think you lose a little bit efficiency wise on the time frame end, but if this whole eBay algorithm is pleased by that those actions, I guess I'll take a little bit of lack of efficiency for increase in sales.
Schedule them.
That's another thing too, like because one question that I've heard people ask, and I guess I'm kind of wondering it myself: do Saturday and Sunday count? Do they matter? And I would assume they would. So I think what I'm gonna do, yeah, maybe I'll just list on Mondays, schedule them for the whole week. It's only 10 cents a listing. It's not like make or break. It's not a huge deal. So maybe I'll just do 70 listings on Monday. Well, I guess Monday's big shipping day, so I'd probably do it on like a Wednesday or something. But whatever it may be, schedule them out for the week. I'll play around with it in 2023, and I guess I'll report back if I notice anything. But yeah, I don't know if you can see on screen, Rusty, if you want to take that one. This one's geared specifically towards you from Professor Birch.
So honestly, it's tough creating a balance for family time and business. But I'll be honest with you, I could probably work and work and work and work. But I mean, what's the point, right? If that's all you're doing. So I try to get off at 5 o'clock every day, kind of like a regular job. Saturdays are iffy. There are times when I need to work on Saturdays, but a lot of times, it might end up being, family time. Sundays, I have off for church, and that's my one day to exercise, and I may or may not get around to doing that. And then so, you start back in again on Monday, and get up as early as you want because typically you can get up a little bit earlier if you need extra time. And then, just work throughout the day, work hard, work diligently, make time for your family, when you need to. Try not to lash out. At times I do that. I hate to say it, but I kind of get angry sometimes at work when I'm trying to answer, that eBay buyer that, might have come through my 12 days of Christmas, for eBay. And, I try to avoid those times, but, it will happen when you're working, with your family around it. here and there as well. But there are times when you got to make apologies. I had to make an apology to my wife earlier this morning. She come over here. She was trying to ask me something. I was working on putting up this new setup. I stood up, banged my head on a metal rail, and I said something. I mean, it wasn't that mean, but the way I said it definitely was. And I had to go over there and I had to apologize. And she was over there working for me, and so that's very helpful that she gets to be here with me and help out with the job and business. But sometimes it creates a little bit of tension too with the family working around the business at times as well. But for the most part, make sure that you give time to both of them. You prioritize your family over the business, but your business takes care of the family, when it's the only income for the home. So you do have to make sure that it is a priority enough to where you dedicate time to it when it's needed, so to make sure you get everything paid for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something I am not good about is time management. I'm one just like you, Rusty, who could work 24/7 and need to force myself to actually take time off to do things that I want to do. But at the same time, I do enjoy working on eBay and dealing with Pokemon cards and all that. So it really doesn't feel like work most of the time. But one big thing for me is just taking a couple hours off at night to help cook dinner, eat dinner with the family, watch TV for a little bit, and then usually once everyone goes to bed, then I'll get back on the computer and list some stuff, answer emails or whatnot.
Yeah, just carving out time, scheduling it. One thing it's kind of like a blessing and a curse about being your own boss and working from home, doing your own job like this. You can do it at any time. You just need to be careful that you don't make it all the time. Yeah, you need to like I try to be. I'm not as good as I should be. We've talked about this multiple times, and I always say it. Uh, but what do they call it? Do not disturb mode on your phone is a big one. Trying to just stay off Instagram, stay off Discord, stay off emails, eBay messages from that time. 4:30 p.m. when I get off work till 8:30 p.m. when the kids go to bed. And again, I'm not perfect at it. If you see me on Discord between those hours, yell at me. Tell me to get off and it's family time. But yeah, it's obviously, as Rusty said, there's a dynamic there. You can't be family only because you need to take care of your family. You need to this is how we provide, right? This is the income for the household. So or one of the incomes for the household. But yeah, you also, I mean, they're the most important thing for sure. So you need to just have them separated best you can. We had a couple questions that kind of aligned. We had, I think, Thrifty here with a little bit of a tease one. Question for Rusty: would you like to buy a full art Pikachu trophy for $90K? I think we know he declined back in the spring.
Right.
But John had a serious one. Question for TCA: what are your thoughts on the Worlds promos? I know you sold the 2005 finalists for $50K. Just like broad thoughts, I guess, on Worlds promos and trophies.
So I am by no means an expert when it comes to Worlds trophies and that kind of stuff. I didn't even realize, those were that scarce, or I mean, they really are rare, until that auction come up, and I went and just started looking up the pops. And when they were so low, I started doing a little bit more digging. I found that Excel or that thread, the Google Sheets, whatever it is on E4, where it goes through all of the rarest cards, in both Pokemon, English, old back, new back, all that good stuff. And I was looking at the numbers on it, and it was just so low, those numbers. And because there was basically no sales data, and there was only like one or two in the pop for like the top, like the finalists and the quarterfinalists, that kind of stuff, that I decided, I was just going to go for it. So on that particular one, I didn't have any knowledge about them before. And then I did research, and then it ended up panning out really well. I can't say that would be the case, that I could tell you what the value is of a year after that or a year before. I guess the year before would be the first year. So those would be highly sought after. But in general, I think that they have a lot of potential. But the problem is, for years, I know a lot of people stayed away from because they were just trainer cards. Yeah, I mean, you do hear people talk about the artwork. It is, somewhat unique. I mean, you do see it repeated year after year on some of them. But to me, it was like a trainer card that really didn't have a whole lot of excitement going on for it. So I don't personally collect those cards. Every now and then I'll pick up some that I believe are good holds, maybe to sell in the future, or just, maybe to have a few for the collection, but not any personal collection goals am I using, am I using those towards. So to me, they're not personally for me. I don't really like them that much. I've owned most of those sets of 9, the error ones. I think believe there was one of the DP 27s that was supposed to be a 45 or something like that. I can't even remember which one it is, but so there are cards in there that have appealed to me because they were errors, and I like to collect all the errors at one time. But I've since kind of backed off trying to collect everything that has some kind of issue on the Pokemon card, because that's a never-ending fight. And to me, like I said, I think they're okay. I think there is a place for them in the market, but I don't think they're ever going to have the demand and driving force behind it like some random Charizard or Pikachu card that has a really nice artwork.
Yeah, biggest thing with me with the world promos is it's once you get to like the finalist stamp and the semi-finalist stamp, the only difference determining that price point is the gold stamp. So I would much rather have the cheaper option, either just the promo itself or the staff version.
And me, yeah, stamps. I've never been a big variant guy. So me, when I first got turned towards trophy cards after having completed like all the set goals that I had, the Pikas really stood out just because they are a unique art. They do repeat year to year, but like the stamps, you have the unstamped competitor version, the staff stamp, then you have top 32 on up to champion. I just don't get. I understand why the market adds so much value for each successive stamp because of their lower print run. But for me, like, give me the art in its cheapest form. And with the Pikas, the art in its cheapest form, it's the only form. It's the big expensive one. So I went that route for those. But then the world's ones, I just go unstamped, lowest binder copy, basically, for me. So yeah, that's where I sit with that. J-Rob the Collector asks, what's the best way to film videos with a FaceCam and a CardCam, and how do you record? So me personally, I use OBS. OBS is really nice. I have 3 cameras actually. I have anybody who watched my live stream the last couple of weeks, I think I had the Snorlax cam up showing Snorlax on the beach. I don't have that set up in my PokeFlipz OBS, but OBS is free. And there's so much you can do with it. It's a little less intuitive. I guess if you want to go a paid route that's easier to set up and more like turnkey, I would recommend StreamYard. It is really, really nice. So those would be my 2. I don't know. Are you using OBS for your streams, Rusty?
Yes, I'm definitely using OBS.
Yep, I figured you did. And then Nick doesn't make YouTube videos. Anything to add, Nick?
I am not the best one to talk to about that. I record all my YouTube videos on my iPhone, and for these podcasts, I'm just using the built-in webcam on my laptop.
One thing I would say is I've been using a laptop to live stream, and I didn't realize that was the main reason my lives were shutting off. Like, even though I had a pretty nice laptop, it was supposed to be a gaming laptop on top of that. Once you run, live at a certain bit rate or frames per second to FPS or whatever for a certain amount of time, that thing's going to overheat and it's just going to shut off. It's going to have to turn off. So I didn't realize that a PC, having one of these big towers or whatever, is actually the way to go when you're doing live streams. So I had to learn that the hard way after buying, another laptop, and working on that for the longest time.
Yeah, desktop. Ideally, a desktop made for gaming will be able to handle like all your needs for video making, and especially if you get into editing at all. I mean, video editing and gaming kind of use a lot of the same processing and GPU power. But Serdan collects. If you want to start, Nick, have any of you used the eBay vault? What's the verdict? As an overseas collector, I'm curious on the efficacy. Prior PWCC user here.
I have not used the eBay Vault myself. I don't think I've even shipped to the eBay Vault yet. So I know it's something that they're just kind of starting up and rolling out, but I am excited for what's to come with the eBay Vault. I've heard there's some issues with delays of people sending cards to the eBay Vault and it taking a while for them to actually process that order and get them entered into your account. But it is new still, and I am excited to see where the eBay Vault goes. I think if they do it right, it could be really big and really give PWCC a run for their money, because eBay just gets so many more eyes than PWCC. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But me personally, I really don't have any experience with it. How about you, Rusty?
So I was a part of the eBay Vault beta program. I was one of 4 sellers that sent in a good bit of inventory kind of as a test. And so I'm not familiar with the fee structure on how that works, but essentially if you have an item that's already in the vault, I've had a few people buy items from me that are in the vault, and what you can do is you can have it transferred to your account if you are the buyer, and you won't have to pay those sales taxes. Although if you do withdraw it, you will have to pay the sales tax then, unless you have a resale tax and use ID. I did make sure that if that happens, like if I bought something and I wanted to send it there and had it withdrawn myself, that so if you do have that resale tax ID, it does apply there. But they are still going through quite a bit of figuring everything out. I was a part of the second wave as well that went through July. And to put it to you this way, the stuff that I had ingested in July, that stuff has all been entered in, it's all been picked up. But because I want them to change all of the titles, we've had some issues and setbacks with they have to put in all the item specifics exact, because you can't change the title yourself. You can't change the item specifics. The only thing that you can take care of is the price. You can send it to auction. You can put it in buy it now, and you can change the price, and that's about it. That's about all that you can change within a listing that's in the vault, because they're taking all of the responsibility if that item sells. So they want to make sure that the title is correct. And so for me, I have a unique opportunity, because I'm close with a few people there, that I can have my titles changed. But in doing so, I also have to basically wait for everything to get approved and gone through the system. But when they did that, they marked every item as not graded, in which that caused an issue on the eBay backend, because if you put PSA in the title and you say it's not graded, but then you still have PSA is listed as authenticator in the item specifics, that causes an error. So if there's any type of error in that listing, then it won't list, and you can't fix the problem. You basically have to wait for it to go through all of the internal process for it to be taken care of. So that's something that they're working on. They're also working on a good way to have better scans. They were just using these quick pictures that they were using with their hands, and that I told them that was a major issue, because some of my pictures, like they literally had like a blurry hand that was like in the picture of the card. I'm like, you just need to be using a scanner for this kind of stuff. You guys can reuse it over and over and over and over and over again. So that's something that they're working on. But I think those are the pictures and the titles. Those are the biggest issues that are going to hold sellers back from listing in the eBay vault. And then the biggest issues from people sending to the vault are going to have to deal with the time it takes to actually process the items, and then the fees that are associated with them. What are they going to be, once they get fully into the process of opening it up to the public? Also, there's going to be a threshold of how much the item has to be worth before it can be put into the vault.
Just one quick logistic question. I don't really have anything to add, having never used the eBay vault, but I will get to Swami. Thank you very much, Swami, for the super chat. So Rusty, some of your items that you have listed in the vault, do they show up through TCA Gaming eBay store, or do they show up through, like what does it look like from the item listing end?
It's going to look just like anything else in your store. You can bulk edit everything, but it's going to be like a listing that is an auction that already has bids on it. You're not going to be able to change aspects of the listing that would affect what the item essentially is. If I don't know if that makes any sense. The only thing you can change is the price and that kind of stuff. But like it'll show up with all of my other items, in that are in my active listings for eBay. Like I said, I could go through and bulk edit everything at once. I could select them individually. I could send them to auction. What's going to be different is, the pictures, the title, the item specifics, all that stuff is going to be done by eBay. So it's not going to have the same consistency as the rest of my items. But for the most part, it's just going to look like I'm selling an item on eBay. There's been some items that have moved already through my store. And right now, because there was that issue with the graded stuff, I'm waiting for several hundred items plus another 1,000 items to be fixed before I can have those relisted, and that'll essentially just double my inventory on eBay once they get that bug.
I was curious because obviously one thing I think a lot of us are hoping is that eBay Vault becomes like PWCC Vault was in its heyday, where you could cross list on eBay. And obviously with PWCC Vault, you send to them, you were listed under the PWCC Vault eBay account. I didn't know if eBay had like an eBay Vault account, or if your items would actually like live in your own store, but it sounds like they do live in your own store, which is interesting.
Right, they're in your store, so like if you have the sale, it'll essentially be on the 1099 or whatever the taxes that come through at the end of the year. But I think even if you did sell, like if eBay had their own vault, they would probably be sending you some kind of tax form. But it just makes it easier for them this way because they just kind of incorporate everything. And I believe that there is a new tab coming for your eBay vault within the seller hub. I know there is one under your My eBay. There is for mine. I don't know if there is for everybody. Like I've got a beta vault section there, and then it takes me to all of the items that are specifically within the vault. I can search within that, but the search parameters are very limited. That's something that they have to work on as well. Because like I can see which items are in the vault, which items are listed on eBay in the vault, and then which items, I have pending for withdrawal or rejection or anything like that from where I sent them in.
Swami, again, thank you for your very gracious super chat. Not needed. But at Rusty, can you quantify how both flipping and collecting contributed to getting you to where you are today? What's your favorite pickup of 2022? And then goals for 2023. So Swami with a big dono and a big trio of questions too.
All right. So, I mean, collecting is what pushed me, especially in the very beginning, because like I said, for those of you who don't know, I didn't have like any seed or start money to when I started buying and selling back in 2008. I simply had a base fossil and a jungle original set that was missing, like there was like a non-holographic Articuno from Fossil, a Clefairy. There was something there was a card from each. I believe it was like a Clefable from Jungle, and I didn't want to just buy those cards. I mean, I was really, really cheap back around then. I mean, I would go in the woods, scrap metal. I would get aluminum cans out of dumpsters. Like that's how I made money. So when I went off to college, I didn't want to spend what little money I had left over from my grants and the scholarships on these Pokemon cards. I wanted to sell the extras that I had to buy. So to finish those collections, I started selling 15 card lots. I started buying and selling Charizards. Back then, you could buy them for $5, sell them for 10. That'd be the difference between an auction and buy now. And you could make a little bit of money that way. Fees were different as well. Postage was much lower. You used to be able to ship a first class package for 98 cents. I mean, it's definitely went up since then. Priority mail was down around $4.10, I think, for a flat rate envelope. So I mean, it was much lower than it is now on this cost. So you could flip that stuff a lot more easily. But the collecting is what drove me to sell, and when I sold, that would push along my collection. I really didn't collect a whole lot, where I set back, big time items until 3 or 4 years into it. I had a base set box when I was 16. That was 2006, but I got that as a present from my brother. He let me use his eBay account, spent $100, got a base set box, but I didn't buy another box after that until I want to say it might have been like 2010. It was like another 4 years later. No, I think it was 2011 because I was with my current wife, Anna, and we were up in Wisconsin. And I remember buying a Team Rocket box for $159.99. and that was an unlimited Team Rocket box. And that was the second box that I added to my personal collection. And then I started collecting all the boxes that I could. Uncut sheets. The very first time I got an uncut sheet was a Neo Genesis. It was a Neo Genesis Common Unlimited. If you guys aren't familiar with how common these were back in the day, there was a guy, I think it was Sports Values. It was something like that. But he had like a pallet of them. You could get these sheets for like $20 a piece. He's the one who started cutting them up into little pieces and selling them off $5, $10 a piece because he could make more money that way. But I would literally go and be like, hey, could I buy 20 of these sheets for $20? Or if I bought 20 of them, could I get them for $20 each? So I'd spend $400 or $500, after you add in the shipping, and get like 20 of these uncut Neo Genesis sheets at once. At one point, I had sold 60 of the uncut Neo Genesis sheets because I just wanted all of them, and I had just gotten too many, so I started selling for $49.99, and then the price slowly got up to, I believe it was maybe $149.99 before I ended up pulling the listing. Now they're worth thousands. So a lot of times when you collect things that are of interest to you, they're probably of interest to somebody else as well. That's not always the case. I've heard ZNG talk about the Mr. Mime or Sudowoodo, some of the Pokemon that he really likes. Yeah, there's not a lot of people that like those cards, but you'd be surprised at how many really do collect those Pokemon. I had someone yesterday, I listed a Dragonair first edition Korean PSA 7 on eBay. I was just like, you know what? The lowest prices on these for like these other ones are like $200-$300. I'm gonna just throw mine up for $99.99, just see what happens. And lo and behold, somebody bought it like instantly. Like it was a snap buy, a PSA 7 Dragonair first edition from base set. I mean, this isn't a holographic card; it's a rare card. And Korean Unlimited is the more rare set or the edition compared to first edition. So first edition is the more common rare edition for that set. So I was really surprised by that sale. But that's just to reiterate, there are so many people who collect and buy within Pokemon that if you can give it enough time, and even if it is niche, there's probably some buyer out there for it. A lot of times auctions do force that sale, but for items that are more common, that may be the easier route. Now, I can't remember what else you had asked there, and I can't see it for some reason on the screen. So
I'll say
maybe Dan.
Well, I guess Nick. Well, yeah, I guess that one was very specific towards you. Nick and I can answer on the second too. Favorite pickups of 2022?
Yeah. Probably the one that's still sitting on me a little bit is my favorite pickup would probably be the Team Rocket sheet, the double-sided one with the test foil. I'm pretty sure that was 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably pick that one.
What about you, Nick? Any big pickups?
That's a tough one. I would probably have to say my unlimited Korean packs. That was definitely up there. And then getting another gold strip theme deck case, that was definitely up there as well. One of those two would definitely be the best pickup for me.
I think like my best collection edition for 2022 would have just been probably the Charizard, the base unlimited Charizard that I pulled on stream with PK and all those guys. Rusty was actually on that stream only earlier. We didn't overlap at all. Like that, I haven't added a ton to my collection this year. I've been more of a net seller definitely, but that was definitely one that's going deep into the PC vault and not ever being sold. So I guess I'll say that one. And then the final trio of questions from Swami was 2023 goals. If you want to start on that one, Rusty.
Man, I guess I should set some. I don't know if I have set any goals yet, but maybe to actually have a decent setup for YouTube and live stream and that kind of stuff. That'd be nice, just to be able to have something that's set and don't have to worry about it every time I try to get on a video. Another goal would be to continue with the current goal of working on the WotC PSA 10 hollows. I think Jim at Pokemon, now he's finished it off, or at least finished that off. Who knows what else he's on to. He's always been the person who's pushed me towards trying to at least get the hollows. I'd love to get the non-hollows as well, but that's a lot of cards. That's a lot of space too. Another goal would be to up my distribution numbers. I'd love to be able to buy 1,000 booster boxes with each set release. Definitely not to that point just yet, especially with the way they've limited, how much you can buy. But I think that would be a nice number to get to by the end of the year.
That would be awesome, getting your numbers up like that. For me, I have a lot of goals for 2023. I'm hoping 2023 is going to be a really good year. First off, I want to start doing daily eBay auctions. So I'll do my big consignment auction on Sunday, and then Monday through Thursday, maybe Friday, I'll do like 10 to 20 single card auctions. I want to try and, like we were talking about earlier, get into listing almost every single day, listing new items on eBay. I want to get back on YouTube and try and stick with that. So I'm planning on doing one YouTube video a week. I also want to get back on Instagram, where Instagram's really, really easy. I'm planning on doing one Instagram post every day. And then smaller goals, continue advertising the website more to hopefully get more traffic over to the website, and just keep advertising the consignment services too. So hopefully 2023 is a good year. It's gonna be busy.
Yeah, my main goals for 2023 are just to keep up the consistency with what I've been doing. Not adding any significant things, just trying to do everything I'm doing better. I have some specific like monetary goals that I think I want to be inventory wise, turnover wise. I want to increase some of my metrics, like my sell through, things like that for my eBay, and that's where I'm going to try to do the daily listing. But as far as like collection goals, I mean, my biggest goals for every year here into eternity will just be meeting new people in the hobby, engaging more in person with the same people like that my friends in the hobby. The live in person events are the best part of all this for me. So I want to make at least 3 to 4 in person events, as I did in 2022, and then I would love to pick up a half art Pikachu one of these days, trophy Pikachus, Japanese promos, Pika rings, Mew orbs, Master's Key, Miracle Diamond, Miracle Diamond, Wonder Platinum, cards like that I've never yet owned. I don't know that they necessarily be personal collection items, but even if I could have one pass through my hands on consignment, or pass through my hands buying a big collection and then turning it over through the business, lot of goals like Nick, a lot of stuff I want to work towards. And in 2023, I mean, 2022 was my first year full time. 2023 will be my second, and I'm hopefully set up for a pretty big one, because I know we're not in the 2020 insanity anymore. I mean, prices are down pretty much universally, but I think all three of us here, I think we're all really killing it in our businesses still, which is good to see. The hobby's healthy. The hobby's very strong. There's so much demand out there for this stuff we all love. Chaotic Rudd says, I'm in the process of setting up an LLC to buy/sell cards online. What are some tips you guys can give for maximizing the benefits that I'll receive as an official business? Thanks. One thing, every time I see LLC, and you guys can share what you do or not share too, that's fine. But I think a lot of people jump straight to an LLC because they think they need to. They heard something about it. They read something about it. I never was an LLC. I went straight from a sole proprietor 2014 through 2019 to 2020. And then in 2021, I became an S corporation. Very specific reasons why you would do that. Talk with an accountant, talk with a CPA. But yeah, I think a lot of people, and I'm not recommending you don't do it. I guess I'm just recommending you think it through and make sure it's right for you with a professional. But I know a lot of people are sole proprietors, and there's no real added benefits as far as I understand from becoming an LLC. But so I guess step one would be, one tip, ensure that LLC is right for you, and do that with the assistance of a professional. Step two, don't be like ZNG Emporium and be paying sales tax on items you purchase for resale. So whatever state you're in, it has a different name in every state. In New York, it's called a certificate of authority. Some states it's called a reseller's permit, reseller's license, whatever it may be. Get that. Get it on file with Amazon, get it on file with eBay, any place that you're going to be buying stuff for resale through. Don't be paying sales tax on it, because when you're paying an extra 5 to 10% on top, it's just that much harder to make a margin for yourself. Definitely separate business accounts, separate business. Don't intertwine your personal and business credit cards, nor bank accounts, nor anything like that. So your life will be a lot easier at the end of the year when those 1099s come in and you just download even eBay accounts. If you buy personally on eBay at all, I recommend having like a completely separate account. If I buy some random knickknack for my house or whatever, or a Christmas gift, a personal item for somebody, I have a separate eBay account that I do that for. And I do all my buying, my sales tax exempt buying on one specific account on eBay. That way at the end of the year, downloading all the summaries, it's just all separate. I don't have to like pluck out any information. I don't have to, I just use it all. So I guess there's a few, I could go on, but I'll let these guys go and see if they have any things to add. What do you think, Rusty?
If you want to go ahead, you can.
Well, I'm a sole proprietor, so I couldn't really tell you much about LLCs or S corporations. It may be beneficial to me. I've just never had a need for it, so I've never done it. I've stayed a sole proprietor, the whole time that I've done business. And what he was talking about with the keeping your bank accounts and stuff separate, that's definitely very good advice. I don't always adhere to that, because sometimes I need a little bit extra money that because I'm going to buy something bigger, and I just end up using my business account. But at least those are easy to identify what's going on there. If you start using your business PayPal or your business bank card for any time you go out to eat, with the family or get gas, it's going to get really confusing at the end of the year. So, because you might be able to remember right now, but unless you're going home and taking care of it on an Excel or QuickBooks or whatever you use, then you're probably not going to have any idea what's going on, at the end of the year or the following year, depending on how long it is between the time that you do that and the time that you actually take care of your taxes.
Yeah, that's definitely a big one that I did not listen to for the longest time. I had one bank account up until 2020. Everything just went into my personal bank account. But I would definitely recommend separate bank accounts. Makes life a whole lot easier. And I'm the same way. I'm a sole proprietor. I never did the whole LLC thing, and then S corp just doesn't quite make sense for me yet. But yeah, sole proprietor has been fine for me.
And I think I knew both of you guys were sole proprietors, but I didn't know if you wanted to share that or didn't want to. So I didn't want to say, but if Rusty's doing it as a sole proprietor at nearly the highest level, I mean, I don't know any individual that's doing it at a higher level than Rusty. Again, consult with whoever you're setting an LLC through, see if it makes sense or not. It might, but I know for me it never did. And then I went straight to the S corp. But Mr. Walrus has a question for Rusty specifically. Rusty's work ethic is well known. Do you, Rusty, have anyone whose work ethic impresses you or that you want to emulate to some degree? I think what he's saying is basically a lot of people like look up to you. Is there anyone in your life that you looked up to that you like aspire to be similar to work ethic wise?
So when I was 15, I went with my current girlfriend at that time to go work for a week for a guy in Greensboro. And he let me work for him for a week. And then after that, he said, why don't you come back and work again, the following summer? So I did. That following summer, I was 16, and he let me basically work as much as I wanted. But I learned my work ethic from that guy, because he would work me into the ground and let me work as much as I want. I would get up at 6 a.m. and I'd work to 9 p.m. and I would have a total of 30 minutes and breaks for breakfast, lunch, and supper during that 15-hour day. And then a lot of it would be outside. But during that whole time, he was up, he was working, doing his own thing as well. And we'd work 6 days a week, and then we'd take Sunday off. And, some of these weeks were really long. So 90 hours usually was the shortest that we would work. 90 hours in 1 week, at 16. I remember there was 1 week where I did 108 hours. And I tell you what, after that, it's like I was just completely changed, because it was that way the whole summer. I mean, a lot of it was outside in the sun, digging holes. Literally, I dug probably a 300-foot ditch. A lot of it was through gravel. It was 2 foot wide and about 2 foot deep, and it was for the side of his gravel driveway. And you know what? He'd be out there helping me out, doing everything along the way. And I remember I would come up to him, I was like, I'm strong. I felt a little cocky. I felt like I was real strong. I was like, all right, let's arm wrestle, because I used to love arm wrestling. And man, he just took me down in the heart. I mean, he just slammed my arm down. I couldn't believe that he beat me when I could beat everybody else that was really big at school and all the stuff. But this guy right here, he just took me down. And I don't think there was really ever anything that I could truly beat this guy at. And he had 20 years. Well, he probably had 15 years or so on me, but that's where I learned my work ethic. And I imagine he's still going hard at it today. He was one of those guys that he was crude. He did some things that I didn't like doing, but he could put his mouth behind, everything that he said. And he would definitely walk the walk that a lot of people just don't. So, I mean, I would say that he's the one that I got a lot of my work ethic from. But there's a lot of people in my life as well that I see that work really hard. My wife works really hard at what she does. She's literally with the kids all day. And I mean, I realize that's not work per se or whatever, but she has to deal with a lot of mental stuff here on, while I'm working, I'm doing stuff that's easy. I'm working with Pokemon. A lot of us can relate to that. It's something it just comes natural because it's something that we enjoy. There's a lot of people who are doing things that are mentally draining and strenuous. And a lot of times I don't have to deal with that. So it may look like I'm working, crazy hard or whatever, but really I'm working an 8-hour day, and my day is probably easier than most of the people that are out there. What about you guys?
For me, it would definitely have to be my dad is one. Just kind of he was always into coins, and so he had always one of his goals was to always open a coin shop. And so to see kind of him start out doing like flea markets and card shows or coin shows, and then work his way up to actually opening a small store, and then working his way up to open a little bit bigger of a store. He was definitely one of my biggest motivations to get on eBay. Or originally he was the reason I got on eBay. I did not know about eBay. I would not have known about eBay if it wasn't for him. He helped me out in the beginning, and then growing the business, I always wanted to be like him, only with cards, and one day have a successful eBay business that I could do full time, and doing that now. So hopefully be able to continue doing that. So he would definitely be one of my biggest motivations on where I kind of learned a lot of this. And then another one that I looked up to that I still look up to, you, Rusty, obviously, when back when you were doing your peak singles, I would constantly look at your eBay store, see how many listings you had, check out how many things you were selling every day. And for a while there, I had wanted to kind of reach the number of listings that you had at your peak, like 8 to 10,000 ish. I forget exactly. But I've since kind of given up on that goal and transferred a lot of stuff over to TCG Player. But yeah, your work ethic of packaging all those orders and all that definitely makes me think that I could do it too.
For me, my dad, my grandpa, I guess my uncle too. My dad primarily, though, self-employed for most of my life. For a while there in high school, he got a job actually at like a local college, because they had this crazy benefit where they would pay full tuition if we went to that college, half tuition to any college in the country. So for like 7 or 8 years, my dad stuck it out being employed, working for someone else, and he hated it. And he didn't even ultimately stay till I graduated. But yeah, growing up, he was primarily like a mechanic, welder, fabricator, little bit of everything. But he'd be, I mean, Rusty, I don't know if anyone did the math at home, but Rusty said 108-hour week, taking off Sunday. That's by my count, that's 16-hour days. Or sorry, 18-hour days. 18-hour days, 6 days in a row. That was that's probably pushing it. My dad probably didn't do that very often, but he probably did do that from time to time. Growing up, though, I remember middle school, high school, there were a lot of years where I was in school full time, and I'd work 50-hour weeks after like nights and weekends with him, because he'd be putting in 80, 90, 100-hour weeks providing for the family. I mean, he'd be, and it was great because it was like it became a bonding time thing too for us. Like I learned a lot of stuff working on cars, working on stuff that goes wrong in my house. My furnace breaks, my dishwasher breaks, my dryer breaks. I crack right into it and I get to the bottom of it. I figure it out, and I picked up all that stuff from my dad. So he's how old would he be now? 54. He's not retired by any means. I don't think he'll ever retire, but he's definitely like dialing it back some, enjoying the grandkids, enjoying just family and friends a lot more. It's good to see that he's like dialed it back some in some respects, reaping the benefits, reaping the rewards of all the hard work earlier on in life. And so yeah, just throughout my life, his drive and his work ethic. And then my uncle owns his own like contracting business, and my grandpa has just he's like 80ish now, and he only just recently retired. He had a couple of health things go on, and that kind of similar. Like it's good to see him finally kind of like slowing down a little bit. But he worked until late 70s, and it wasn't because he needed the money. It's just because he had like that drive and had that passion for just putting in a good hard day's work. And yeah, those would be like my dad primarily, but a couple more that I would love to work as hard as they do. I didn't have my next question queued up, so I'm going to try to find one quick.
Oh, you're slacking here.
Leaf Green Goblin asks, "Hi Rusty, how do you see Japanese exclusive sets and promos doing down the line? Thanks."
Well, I guess it depends on the set, of course. But I mean, there's someone actually had asked about the Verse series today. They sent me a message, and like that set, I believe it was the first edition set for the Japanese side. A lot of it was exclusive. The only ones that weren't technically exclusive were the trophy ones that were printed through the Tropical Mega Battle in 2001 and 2002. But those are so rare that was an exclusive Japanese set. Cards like that that are within a set that itself seems pretty. It's not that elusive, but the cards themselves, like if you're not deep into Pokemon, you probably have no idea what they are. But there's a lot of artworks there that are really nice. I think those are going to continue to do well. For the longest time, they were really, really cheap. But there's a lot of stuff that people don't even know what's going on. If you're talking about exclusive promos seems to do really well, but they get a lot of exposure as well. But there's other series and sets that are printed where they're printed differently on the Japanese side that, while they are exclusive, they're also very niche. So you have to keep that in mind too, especially if you're trying to, invest or, do something like that. Think about where your price point is. I think that is always a factor, when you're buying something. But what are your goals for that particular set? Do you plan on selling it within 6 months, 6 years? Never. Do you plan to grade the cards? What kind of condition are they? Is it complete? Do you want to, work on the individual card and one particular individual card within the set and buy a lot of those? I think all of these things can play a factor into whether or not it's a good plan for you to make that purchase. But really, unless you give exact specifics, it's hard to give an exact answer. But like I said, if you're talking about an entire set that's desirable but less well known, like the Verse series set on the Japanese side, I think that's a good play. I mean, it's very stable. There's a lot of demand for it. There's a lot of popular Pokemon there. I mean, there's cards in there that tie back to the game, like the Lance's Dragonite and the Gyarados and Lance's Charizard, Claire. You have a lot of trainers that you don't see in other sets. So I think something like that does have a lot of potential. But again, it's not like they're super rare either. It's just a set that's not as well known within, people who are not typically very engaged as I would think almost anybody in the chat would be.
Yeah, I'm not big into Japanese, but I absolutely love the Versus set and then the vending sets. I think those are definitely way up there in terms of a couple of my favorite sets, for sure. But then when you talk about like modern promos that are Japanese exclusive, I think there's definitely still some opportunity with those, buying them, grading them, selling them. But I don't think it's as much as back a couple of years ago, because there's a lot more people who know how to buy from Japan and who are actually doing that. So I don't think it's as as profitable if you're talking about flipping. But holding long term, I can see it working decently well, because while there's probably going to be a large supply of a lot of these cards, they also have really, really good artworks, and some of the promo cards are really good. So they are going to have the popularity behind it as well.
Yeah, I think you guys covered it pretty well. Japanese exclusives are nice just because some people are English only. Like I was English only for my first few years in, and unfortunately that was to my detriment. Like I was around when Mario, Pikachu and those came out, and I just didn't go for them because I didn't want to like expand that broadly. But I think there are a lot of people out there that are like English only, except for what really catches their eye. And if you love Mario, if you love those Edward Monk, I believe it's Monk, I always say Munch, but if you like that painting and you want to get the screen promos, you don't have an English alternative. So you do like kind of lure in some English only guys with the Japanese exclusives. So, but as Rusty said too, like there's no universal answer. Oh, they're all going to do amazing. There are air quotes good and bad ones, right? There are ones that are going to do better than others, but I mean, Versus Series, you guys mentioned, kind of a staple. There's a lot of great ones out there. It's such a huge, broad, diverse hobby, and there's so much amazing stuff out there. Ray had a question for Rusty. I'm going to sneak in and answer it first so that I can grab the next question without any delay. Do you have a time frame where you start discounting your buy it now inventory to start moving it faster? One thing that I've mentioned multiple times, 2020 time frame, when prices are trending up, especially as quickly as they did, you don't have to because everything just sells eventually, right? 2020, my store got about wiped out. Now that we're in a downtrending, I mean, bubble popped, we're kind of in a more healthier place. Some things tend to trickle down though. I have a couple listings in my store, 12 months old, 16 months old, 18 months old. What I do is, and I don't have like a strict formalized thing, it's more by feel. But like just earlier this week, everything that was older than a year old, I sent out like a 40% offer. I had hundreds of items. It was like a couple hundred items. I wasn't going to go item by item and try to optimize exactly what's today's market value. I just wanted to do it in bulk. So some of them probably went for deals. Some of them I probably sold 20, 30 bucks under market price, but it's like a year is just too old, too old of a listing. I need to move some stuff. So at 3 months, 10 to 20% off. At 6 months, 20 to 30% off. 12 months, 40% off. Something like that. It is just a very rough guideline for what I intend to do moving forward to try to get stuff selling more quickly. What do you think, Rusty?
So on my list of priorities to do, this is probably one of the lowest. And the main reason is because if I have other things to do, I'm going to work on putting up new product, working on consignments, do videos, do that kind of stuff. If I have nothing else to do, which is rare, then I might go through and price check certain items that I know I have an entire box for and think, all right, well, let me just go ahead and see if this price is okay. And if it's not low list, then I'll go ahead and make it low list. But for the most part, I can't do that whole send out an offer for everything that's older than a year because I have many listings that are very, very old because they have so many sales. Like I have certain products, certain cards that are listed, PSA 9, 10 condition that are like promos from the Wizards of the Coast era that I might have 100, 200 of, maybe more, might have several boxes. So they may still be selling consistently, but the listing itself could be 2-3 years old. Like there are some listings that I carry over. Like if I have an item that I sold 500 of, and then I finally ran out and I have no more left, then it'll go to the out of stock quantity, but the listing itself doesn't end. After 2 or 3 months, when I know every buyer that has bought that item isn't going to be able to check in their my eBay and get confused, I'll go back and I'll change the title of that item to something else, and then I'll relist it with something else I have a high quantity of that's not currently listed. That way it shows like a sales history, but it actually boosts the results on the item itself. But you have to wait that amount of time because if you change it right away, somebody who say bought a Mew PSA 10, WotC promo, if you change it the next day to a Pikachu, then that Pikachu is actually what they're going to see in their My eBay, even though their email and their confirmation, if they have to open up an item not described case or something like that, that they will see that it is a Mew. You don't want it to get to that point. You don't want to confuse your buyers. You want to make sure that they actually know what they bought, even if they can't remember correctly, because of what they're seeing. So that's one thing that I do with listings that run out, and I recycle a lot of the old stuff. But also with the price decline stuff, it I'll do the send out a 5% offer type deal to 200 listings at once. I'll do that occasionally just because I want to get more sales for that particular day. But that would be the only reason that I do that. So the only way I'm going to lower it is if I have nothing else to do, or I notice that I have a bunch of them and none of them are selling and I need to sell them, or because I haven't sold a lot of stuff recently and I want to just get some more sales for the next day. Because if I don't have at least 50 orders or so to ship out in a day, then it was probably pretty slow and I wasn't doing something right. I didn't have auctions, and I'd like to have more listings being pushed out. So that would be really the only time frame or reason that I would do something like that.
And sometimes what I'll do too, like say I make a massive, like a $50,000 collection purchase, and if I'm running like a little bit tight on cash flow or whatever, I'll just go and out like almost everything in my whole eBay, I could probably discount like 10%. I don't want to, and I don't have to oftentimes, but like I might just send out a 10% offer off all 2,000 listings. I mean, you can do that with, you can't do, I think you are limited to 200 at a time. But with a few clicks of a button, you can send out just offers in bulk on hundreds of stuff, hundreds of things. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, and I think it goes up to like 30 buyers as well on each one of those. I mean, it's a lot of emails and offers that are being sent out.
Yep.
Yeah, I absolutely love that feature. I haven't used it the past month or so just because sales it's been a very busy past month or so. So I kind of don't want the extra sales, but usually going forward, I'll send those offers once a week, once every other week, once that little tab gets to like a couple hundred listings that I can send those offers to. I'll go ahead and send those offers. So usually once a week, once every other week, and that works really, really well. I'll do between 10 and 20% depending on what the item actually is. If it's just like a cheap common card where the percentage really isn't going to matter, I'll do 20%. Higher end, I'll do 10%, and that really works well. You usually always see an increase in sales because of that. And then I usually also do like a store-wide markdown manager sale twice a year. I usually do one towards the end of summer, late July, sometime in August, because sales are usually slower for me during that time period. So I'll do it then, and then I'll also do it Black Friday weekend, just because that's what everyone else does. So, but aside from that, I really don't have a specific time frame where if something hasn't sold in 6 months, 1 year, whatever, I'll go through and lower pricing or be more aggressive with the offers that I'm sending out to people or whatnot. It's always just kind of list it and forget about it until it sells. I'll occasionally go through my eBay store and look at pricing, but it doesn't happen very often at all.
We had a little, we're like an hour behind the chat. Sorry guys. We're working through what we can, but we had Mr. Walrus ask what's stance on card altering, and then we had a couple people specify further cleaning products. What do you think of that stuff? I know Rattle did a couple videos about it. I think Kurt's Card Care by now is a name that is familiar with quite a few people. Nick and I were asked this a couple months ago, maybe. And we kind of talked through our opinions on it. But yeah, feel free to share what you'd like to on that, Rusty, whatever your thoughts are.
Okay. So if you guys are talking about like the those cards, the sketches where people were wiping it off the card, I think it's kind of sucks. I mean, I think it's disrespectful to the card or to the illustrator or whatever. I mean, but I think it is what it is. I mean, whenever you give somebody something, it's theirs to do what they want to with. So if it happens, I would like to think that anybody who did that, like if you got a Rita to sign a card, sketch it for you, make it out to Pikachu or whoever, and you went on there and you wiped it off, that you would at least tell the person that you're selling the card to that that is exactly what you did. I know that's probably not going to happen because it's trying to be deceptive in the first place. But I think also as the person buying it, you need to be aware that these things are going on. And before you spend that money, maybe do a little bit of research. I've gotten myself into trouble before where I didn't do the research properly on something, and that's on me. So I think there's a responsibility for both the buyer and the seller in any of these cases. And but ultimately, if somebody does that, we can't stop them. It's not like it's against the law to mess up a card that has been signed and given to you, or a card that is yours and that you paid to have signed. So I mean, it fair game, I guess, for them to be able to do that. But I'm not saying that it's right. I wouldn't do it, and I wouldn't endorse anybody doing it. That's for sure. So like I said, I hope that anybody who does do something like that, that they let the person know that they're trying to sell it to. If they're getting it graded through PSA, I don't know whether or not PSA should be grading these things or not. I would think not, since it's technically altered. But I mean, that's what a signed card is. I mean, it's being altered by the illustrator. So it's not like the rest of the signature is any less authentic or the card. It's just that part of the signature that was originally put on there after the card had already been printed has been wiped off. So I think it's one of those things, if PSA or any other company is going to grade something like that, they need to put on there that it was altered. So I think it's all about transparency and being honest, but we just know that that's not going to be the case and what's going to happen.
And that conversation does come up hand in hand often with the one, I think the one that people are referencing though, is that when you take a card that's like might be LP near mint and you rub something on the surface that either one, I think there's two stages of it. There's one, it removes grime. It's almost like sunglasses cleaner or something. And so it's almost like it's not acetone or I don't know what it is exactly, but it's some kind of a solvent that will help clean away grime. And then there's another one. It's almost like a waxy type substance that you polish in with a microfiber cloth. And whether it fills in scratches, what it does exactly, I don't know. I've never owned it, but I think it's called Kurt's Card Care. Some people have mentioned it in chat. I've heard people talk about it on different live streams. So what are your thoughts on like putting a substance on a card to kind of clean it up before you submit it for grading?
The whole thing kind of sounds far-fetched. Like you take a card that has scratches, which is like the surface is damaged, and you rub something on it to fill in, those scratches or holes. You think that would be apparent that anybody who's buying it, I mean, especially if you're doing it online, I guess there's an element of deception because you're not going to be able to see that. But if you're sending it off to be graded, if that's what's happening, if those scratches are being filled in, that should be somehow apparent. That's what I would think anyways. I mean, these cards are not wax. Our Pokemon cards aren't wax.
And supposedly,
I'd like to see it done.
Supposedly there were some of these services where they were like grading middlemen. You send your card to them, they do this treatment to it, and then they send it into PSA or CGC or BGS. And supposedly they were cracking out cards, doing it to them and getting higher grades. I never really got that far down that rabbit hole. It's not something I'd ever do. But supposedly some were passing through grading companies. CGC did recently come out with a statement that you cannot put any kind of a chemical on your card that you then submit for grading. That gets a little, like, as a former chemical engineer, water's a chemical. Your saliva is a chemical. Because like I've put a little bit of spit on my thumb and wiped away some kind of grime or grease. Never anything on the hollow trying to like fill in holes or fill in scratches. But you get those cards, especially like a base unlimited Charizard, gradable in any condition. There's been times where I've just licked part of my shirt and wiped off the whole back of the card because it had some kind of gunk on it. And theoretically, per what CGC says, saliva is a chemical. Water is a chemical. Theoretically, you can't do that.
Your fingers is a chemical.
Yeah. So when CGC comes out with a statement that's like, oh, you can't put any chemical on your card, that's just a weird thing to me. I get the sentiment. So to me personally, if someone is removing, I forget who I heard say this, and sorry if I'm borrowing what you said, but if you're removing things that weren't originally there, cleaning in the truest sense, like if there's a speck of food dust or whatever, some kind of oily, greasy, whatever, if you're removing, all clear, good to go. If you're adding, that's bad, in my opinion. But removing is a bad, like you can't trim, like you can't remove a core part of the card that was originally there. So if you're removing something that wasn't there when it was produced, all clear by my count. And if you're adding something that was never there, or if you're removing something that was originally there when it was produced, that's bad news. That's my take on it. But even that though,
Yeah,
like when you get the weird cuts, like I know one thing that they do, they take like painter's tape and they go around the edge of a card. One of those rough cuts that has like a little bit of fraying, almost looks like fibers sticking out of the edge of the card. I mean, I've removed things like that from a card that that technically came from when it was produced. You pull like a Hidden Fates Charizard out of a pack, and it's just got a weird cut with a little bit of like extra stuff on the end. I've just plucked it off with my fingers. I mean, technically, I'm removing something that was originally there when it was produced, right? So it's not 100% black and white. It's kind of, that's what makes it an interesting conversation, but that's where I land on all of it.
I think for me, in situations like this, I want to see the actual transaction. Like, I want to see the actual card that people are saying is an issue that someone's trying to sell, how they're trying to sell it, what's being advertised, what's being graded, how it's being graded. Because I think there's so many situations that it could be pointed in any direction depending on how you present it. And if you're talking about a card that is being purposefully filled in with wax or whatever, or chemical or something to make that damage not appear to be there, even though it's still there, and then being sent through a middleman so they don't have to take responsibility, so that the card can be graded, so it can be authenticated and then sold, and then the responsibility again be taken away, and put onto the grading company. I mean, that's obviously an issue. I mean, there's stuff going on there. I mean, but we see that even with people trying to sell through, us, through consigners and middlemen. I've caught somebody bidding on their own auctions before. I mean, that's deceptive. I mean, they were taking away the responsibility of having to pay for that item, from the second highest bidder because they didn't want it going cheaper. I mean, I think there's always going to be a way to make something an issue, but the best way to attack it is, I mean, you're going to have to look at each individual situation, even though for something like this, it can become an issue that goes beyond, one person or even a group of people.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what you guys said. I like Dan's point about removing something from a card isn't necessarily cleaning it, but adding something is. And it will be interesting to see. I think this whole cleaning whatever solution, I think it's a lot smaller of an issue than people make it out to be. I don't think it's as big of a thing. And it'll be interesting to see like what happens to those cards over time. Can you eventually see that it was altered over time? And then the whole CGC thing about them catching these cards does show that it is obvious in some type of way that you did clean the card. So that's a good sign right there. Hopefully PSA and BGS are able to catch these cards as well and stop actually grading them.
Yeah, and I haven't like dove too deeply down it, but I've seen some people talking about it in Discords and linking quick like side-by-side pictures. One of them is it can't be acetone, it can't be like isopropyl alcohol, because those would take off the actual ink of the card. But one is like some kind of a light solvent that actually evaporates very quickly. That, to me, that would be more fair play. If you put like I lick my finger and like wipe off a little bit of residue or whatever, that to me is fair play. You're just like cleaning it back to its original state. But there's one that it almost looks like wax that you'd wax your car with, and then you like I saw them doing it on a sports card, and maybe it would work better with sports cards that are a bit more glossy. That to me though, you're adding something in. I would assume that if you like put a black light on that card, if you put some kind of a light, if you looked at it through some kind of a certain lens or maybe with a loop, I feel like that would be evident. And I think CGC or PSA would be able to catch that if they're looking that fashion, but I don't think there's anything to catch when you're putting a little bit of water on a Q-tip or putting a little bit of saliva on a Q-tip to wipe away something. And some people, oh, well, in 50 years, what's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen to some of this stuff anyways with 50 years, like given that it's just like cardboard. I don't know. It'll be like trying to picture these things 300 years out, like art, like traditional art. There's some paintings that are hundreds of years old, and certain things have had to undergo some amount of restoration and some amount of upkeep to keep them from deteriorating. I don't know how long this stuff lasts, if it'll just last forever, what its life cycle might be like, having been treated versus having not been treated. It's an interesting debate, though. It's an interesting discussion for our hobby. Our hobby's quite young. In coins, cleaning is a no-no. In comics, it's kind of accepted, though. Like, CGC actually offers a pressing service. In video games, WotC actually offers that they'll remove stickers, they'll remove residue. So in some grading fields of collectibles, it's accepted. In some, it's highly frowned upon. And we're kind of a young industry, and I guess we all have to come to some kind of a consensus. So yeah, it's an interesting conversation at the minimum. I will say, I lost like half an hour of comments for, I guess we were like an hour behind chat. And I guess after an hour, my chat just like refreshed itself, and I lost like at least 30 minutes of comments. So I'm just going to continue on. I'm at about 2:15 right now. So now we're only 20 minutes behind because I just lost a bunch. So if anyone has a question, if anyone has a question that didn't get answered and it was asked sometimes between 1:45 and 2:15, I guess just leave it back in chat, but I'm not going to have time to get to all of them. Here's one. AUS10ER, AUS10er, I don't know how you pronounce that, but if you had to take a guess, do you think modern Sword and Shield era has been printed significantly more than, say, the first 3 WotC sets? I'll go first on this one. This one's actually a really interesting one, and thankfully we have a little bit of data on it. I forget the exact numbers, but it's approximately around 40 billion cards have been printed, 9.1 billion having been printed between March of... March of 2021 and March of 2022. So approximately 25% of all Pokemon cards that were printed in a 1-year span just recently. So just doing the math, I actually did a big print run presentation in the Pokenomics Patreon. But doing the math based off that, I think we're printing about the same. I wouldn't say significantly more. I wouldn't say significantly less. But per my data, per the information that they're putting out annually recently, these Sword and Shield current sets are being produced near the same as what they were producing in about 1999 and 2000. I would think much more was attributed to like base set specifically than any singular Sword and Shield set. But as far as like the average, if you take the average set from Sword and Shield Vivid Voltage maybe to current, they're right up there with like Jungle Fossil Rocket, Gym, sets like that. The print runs are high. I don't know if either of you have anything further to add on that.
I'm going to say about the same +1. We're going to do the prices right. So I'm going to say +1 in favor of the new sets, Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon and all that stuff.
So I said $1 and Rusty said $2. So he choked me out of getting the right answer.
Yeah, I have no idea. I would think the Sword and Shield sets are more printed than the original WotC sets. Especially like if you look on it like a set by set basis. Base set was printed into oblivion. Jungle and Fossil were also printed a lot. I would say maybe a bit less than base set, and then once you get into Team Rocket, it kind of starts to slowly go down. But with Sword and Shield, we have massive print runs of Vivid Voltage all the way up to Silver Tempests. So there's a lot more sets that have these massive print runs. But it is interesting to think about that one day, or back in the day, base set was just as available as these modern sets.
And then Pokemon Classics has a good question for us. Nick, if you want to start, and we'll go in reverse order. Looking back, what's the most interesting or event or news story in Pokemon throughout 2022? I think he's using us. He's like outsourcing his ideas. I think he's doing a recap video. So whatever you say may or may not be used in a Pokemon Classics recap video.
I am so bad at remembering what's happened in this whole year. I would need to make a list of everything that's happened. Off the top of my head, though, for me personally, I would say the Collecticons, specifically Charlotte and Denver, had an absolute blast at both of those events. But if we're talking about news related stories of 2022, I would have to go with. I'd have to think about that for a minute. If one of you have one, you could take that one.
I mean, there was a lot of stuff that went on. Was the Logan Paul fake box? Was that year? I mean, was that? I mean,
That might
I don't
have
know
been
how
the
interesting it
end
is, but that was big.
I think that was the end of 20.
end of
21.
21, I
Right.
think. Yeah.
I mean, we had Worlds this year, right? So I mean, that was big. But I mean, they didn't change the Pika artwork, so kind of a dud.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have thought they would have changed them up. I don't know if you guys know this, but we're actually getting World Championship decks, but they're not releasing until next year.
I just got
Normally
called.
they release in November.
Yep, my rep just called me on my numbers for that.
Man, they're more expensive. Okay. And there was a lot of fun. So I mean, the Collecticons were fun. I mean, I don't know if that's like news events, but Charlotte, I really enjoyed when you guys come down and hung out. Hopefully, we can do something like that again this year.
I was going to ask you,
Definitely.
you're planning to go to Charlotte Collecticon. Are you doing any of the others or just the nearby one?
Well, right now, probably just Charlotte, but who knows? It just depends on how busy everything is going on with the family, but most likely just Charlotte. I know we're filling up most of our summer already. I can't make it to that event. Pat Flynn is
Card
planning
party.
out during the
I was going to ask
summertime.
you about card party. Yeah, I figured he reached out.
But that would be I mean, that would be fun, but no, it's right around our anniversary and our birthdays, and then they got Baptist camp and that kind of stuff. I mean, I think something big, with the Japanese market is how strong it's come on and how optimized that market has been. I hope that the fakes and stuff kind of discontinue with what's going on with like the reseals on the higher end products and that kind of stuff. But I think this has been a real turning year for that market in general. I think up until now, I mean, there were always plays, but for a lot of the Japanese side, it was under optimized, and now there's a lot of really, I mean, I think people are understanding that there's a lot of big plays going on with just the product that you can buy and sell. Because even before, I mean, there were the plays, but you couldn't move the product. Now it's like moving at a velocity that I don't know. I've never seen before. Maybe because of the Chinese, market kind of coming on too. And I mean, I don't know if there's any correlation between the Chinese and the Japanese, language and Pokemon cards. There being a lack thereof with the Chinese stuff that's available. So maybe they settle for some of the Japanese stuff. I'm not really sure on that, but I think that's probably been the biggest like market mover, on my end, of the business, for 2022.
And what I was going to say was going to be on like the business end. And I think the unwinding of the backlog, there's still some weird things going on. I have tracking numbers on my final submissions from 2020 that I sent through Ludkins, but they're not like back in hand yet. But yeah, like the landscape drastically changed in that we're back to a world where there is accessible, cheap grading. It's not as cheap or as accessible, I guess, from that respect, but we have $15 grading that's turning around in 2 to 3 months tops. Which that's a drastic change from where we have been all of 2022. So to me, that's like one of the biggest, not a singular event, but a news story, I guess. We're kind of back to reality in the grading front. And I think that has already had some drastic effects on prices of certain cards, and I think it will continue to throughout 2023. I think the margins go away on a lot of the bad cards. Again, no card is bad, but cards that were way overvalued for what they were, given the inaccessibility to grading. So yeah, I would say Collecticons and then just the fact that grading has gotten to a more sane place are the biggest things for me. We
I feel like we're
do.
missing a couple of big events in there that happened. I just can't think of what they are.
We almost certainly are. Yeah, there. We're probably
Like
missing
some
some
obvious
crazy
ones.
big obvious ones.
Yeah.
Sorry if we
Well,
are,
the
but
the Illustrator sale that was this year.
A
Or
bunch of
trade
illustrator
slash sale.
sales.
yeah, which
for
one?
the PSA 10 one.
I mean, and then Chinese, yeah, Chinese being a language. I've seen a couple people mentioning that in the chat. What effect that will have? There's some big Chinese buyers out there, but there are a couple super chats that I want to get to right after this question. I'll do first. Lord Pokesmoke asks, question for y'all. Do you ever wish you could go back to teaching, chemical engineering, or boat work? Do you miss anything about your pre-Pokemon career? I'll go first quickly so then I can find the super chats to highlight. But not really, honestly. I'm only a year and a half out, but there's not much that I miss about it. I think one of the main things that I guess I'm lacking is extreme like heavy lifting brain wise. Like chemical engineering, what probably comes as no surprise, but it was a lot more difficult to work through. Like I guess some of the deep level problem solving, it was just a lot more stimulating for my brain. I mean, there's still so much to think about. There's so many things to debate about and think through in this field, but it's not as mentally stimulating. The nice thing about that, I can at any time I can read up on the latest chemical engineering publications. I've not been because I don't really miss it, but I guess that would be one thing that maybe someday I'll miss a little bit more. And if and when I want to, I can pull out some books. I can go do I can finish up my chemical engineering PE professional engineer license, which I never did. I doubt that I will, but I'm kind of like a homebody / hermit introverted person, so I don't really miss like the coworkers and stuff, and that was some of my biggest grievances with my job to begin with. So for me it's been smooth sailing since I've been full-time for myself. What about you guys?
There's definitely certain aspects of working on the ship that I miss. Mainly the people. Obviously being away on a ship with the same 20-30 people, you get to know them really well. And so I've kind of missed seeing a lot of them. They all live like in different parts of the country, so none of them live near me. So stay in touch like texting, Facebook Messenger and that stuff, but really don't get to hang out with them. So I miss that aspect, and then just seeing different stuff while you're out on the ocean. I kind of do miss that. There's definitely, like, for me anyway, no better feeling than just seeing blue all around you. I
Nick
really
just chucked his mic.
I really do enjoy that, and then seeing the stars at night and stuff like that. So those aspects, like the fun aspects of my work, I do miss. But then when the ship gets into port and you're having to worry about all the people coming on the ship and taking off cargo, putting on cargo, those days I do not miss whatsoever. How about you, Rusty?
Well, I mean, the closest thing I've ever had to a job working for somebody else was when I was working for that guy in Greensboro during the summer when I was a kid. I did work there a few summers in college, but when I graduated college, I got my license to be a teacher, but I decided not to pursue it because I'd been selling part-time while I was student teaching. And so I've been doing that full-time ever since I got out of college. So I don't know what I miss, I guess.
Yeah. I'm gonna get to these super chats. Peek Dat Chew, thank you for the super chat. He said he's adding to the Nick Beard Fund, so apparently all these super chats are for you to grow a beard, I guess. Glad to see you on here, Rusty. Question for all of you: is there a card that you could make a goal to own in 2023 that you've never owned before? I mean, I listed briefly earlier when Swami asked for our 2023 goals card wise. I'll give a short list, I guess. Half Art Pikachu's, Master's Key, Wonder Platinum, Miracle Diamond, U Orb, and Pika Ring would round out my list of, I mean, Illustrator, Japanese Trophy Pikachus are there too. way less likely though. The ones I listed are more realistic. What about you, Rusty?
Probably the original bilingual executor. We could do the other Mantine from the TMB that was corrected. I believe I have the error version. I've got one of them, but I don't have the other. There's one corrected, one error version from the 2001, 2002, and then maybe a number 1 Pika. Maybe that'll be on there.
Mine would be more realistically would be Legendary Collection and Skyridge Team Deck displays. Obviously my number 1 would be PSA 10 No Damage Ninetales, but I don't think that one will ever happen.
Yeah.
Who knows?
If Zach ever leads me to that guy, which he kind of gave me his info, but he never responded to me. But if it ever comes in my hands, I'll make sure to text it to you first and to let you know I got it.
Just to tease you, not because it's for sale. Yeah. Hey, you can come see this at a Collecticon if you swing by, but you're not gonna get it. Just to hit the last, I think I did when the chat jumped all the way that it jumped. I think I missed a super chat. I don't believe it was a question. I apologize though for whoever sent that. I believe it was just a bunch of goats because Rusty is the greatest of all time at what he does. So I guess I'll shout out the message, but I forget who sent it. Sorry. Amplitude.
The Zard Hunter was the goats.
Okay, the Zard Hunter. Sorry, the Zard Hunter. I didn't get your message on screen, but I did see it. Amplitude says +1 to Nick's beard. Will Scarlet and Violet Blackstar promos break the 300 plus as Sword Shield did with so many auxiliary products created to give it such a number? Every era thus far has gotten bigger and bigger. Yeah, it wouldn't be surprising to me if Sword and Shield continued, or sorry, if Scarlet and Violet continued the trend of just astronomical amounts of promos. I think at some point it'll probably slow down, but I don't see any indicators that are telling me that that's happening yet. A lot of prices have come down from 2020, but we got the 9.1 billion print number for March to March of 21 to 22. And I'm really interested to see. I think around July timeframe is when we got that. So around July of 2023, we should be hearing how many cards were printed between 22 and 23 March. And I'm really interested for that number. I speculate that it will be in the vicinity of 9.1 billion. Although slightly less if I had to guess. But yeah, to see Blackstar promos number 300 plus, I'd guess that we'd be at or slightly above that.
Well, do we have any Yu-Gi-Oh fans in here? I'm gonna pull a PK. Can you see this card?
Yep.
That bottom corner. It's got that EN in there. Got SVPEN. And they did that crap in Yu-Gi-Oh! And it signified the end of the greatest era of all time. And now it makes me wonder if that's what's happening with Pokemon too, with this Scarlet and Violet. They changed the borders, so they changed up the cards, and then they stuck the EN on there with the promos. I don't know whether or not they're going to get to 300 or not. I imagine I would bank on it, them being greater than the 300 mark on the promos for the Scarlet and Violet. But to me, I don't know how I feel about it. I'm a stickler for. I don't like change, even though sometimes it's really good. So when I was looking at it earlier and I saw that EN, it just kind of reminded me of Yu-Gi-Oh! The way they had added that EN in there with the identifier. Now it's just going to make my titles that much longer. I'm gonna see if I can get away with omitting EN on all of the titles, and maybe everyone else can do it too. And then we don't have to have 5 letters taken up by the set name for something before you stick in other stuff for the set.
We just have to bond together. If the 3 of us don't do it, maybe we can lead the charge. Rusty just tried to rally the troops.
Exactly. Yeah, I would not be surprised if we got over 300 promos. I don't know how people can collect promos anymore. There are way too many different products that come out now. It's definitely a bit overwhelming for sure. But yeah, I can definitely see them going over 300. But quick thing on the borders, because I just got those collection boxes in this morning and opened them up right before we hopped on here. I kind of like the silver border. I wasn't sure how I was gonna like it, but I think it actually looks pretty good on those cards.
In one conversation I actually had this morning in a Discord chat, we've long had non-yellow borders in English Pokemon. Most of our rarity tiers since the old school EX era, higher rarity tiers, have had non-yellow borders. The gold stars did have yellow, but like the old school EXs had silver. I've got a V and a V star here. The V has a black border. The V star has a silver border. So we've had quite a few cards in English set that a lot of the full arts that they just have a border color, the color of the card. But yeah, overall similar to Rusty. I'm not like it's not like killing me that the borders are going from yellow to silver. If I was allowed to choose, I would say stick with yellow. But overall, on the spectrum of like absolutely love it, it's the best thing ever, absolutely hate it, it's terrible, I'm going to quit the hobby, I'm slightly more towards like the negative side of that. I would have just preferred they kept it the same. But we'll see where it goes. Like it's not the end of the world. It's very slightly negative to having almost no reaction is where I'm at. But yeah, we'll see where it goes. I do want to be respectful of your time, Rusty. I know you had mentioned right around 3 o'clock potentially being when you might have to head out.
Yeah, my wife, she just texted me too. She said they're outside playing when we're done. So I'm probably going to get off of here.
Yep.
I saw there were a lot more questions. I read many of them, and you guys were so nice and kind to me. I definitely appreciate all that. And sorry that I couldn't get around to answering every question. I definitely appreciate you guys, Dan and Nick, for inviting me on here and taking care of everything so I don't have to figure out all the logistics behind Zoom and the chat and everything. Although it was weird looking at this screen, watching a purple G the whole time instead of actually seeing your face. I tried watching the YouTube video, but it was weird. You'd have like reactions while we were talking about something else, and
Yeah.
I had to just take it off of there because it wasn't working out for me.
And I apologize for that. My internet doesn't allow me to upload my video to both Zoom, so Rusty and Nick can see me live. So they just have to watch me like delayed 30 seconds on YouTube. It's an unfortunate reality of living in the woods and having DSL for internet. But yeah, we very much appreciate you coming on. Everyone knows Rusty who's in here. We'll have all his stuff linked below in any case, though. Yeah, really had a great chat. And Nick and I are going to be here for another hour and a half. So feel free to hang out, everyone in chat, if you want to. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Rusty.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, Rusty. Really do appreciate it. And hopefully you have a happy new year.
Same to you guys. Wow.
Thanks. Yep.
Now the viewership plummets.
I was gonna say, now that Rusty's gone, I'm gonna have to quickly reconfigure our faces. So yeah, while I'm doing that, I'll pop up Mr. Walrus's question. Question you'll not get to. So we actually did get to it, Mr. Walrus. Is the wealthy buying grails for huge sums of money and taking them off the market forever a good or a bad thing for the hobby? So if you want to start so I can get our faces fixed.
Is the wealthy buying big grails and holding them a good or bad thing for the hobby? I would say overall it's a better thing than what's happening. That seems to be happening right now. People need to stop auctioning every single high-end card, which seems to be happening right now. Everyone's just sending everything to auction, which when you're talking about like super high-end cards, you can't sustain pricing sending these cards to auction constantly. You have to be, as a seller, you have to be patient, list it as a buy it now, and then kind of field offers, have a set idea, have a set price point that you're looking to get for that card. Sending them to auction is just not a good strategy. So when you have these people buy these cards from an auction or wherever from and add them into their personal collection or add them into their investment portfolio, whatever they're doing with them, it helps the overall market because that copy is no longer available. It's off in someone's collection. So now you have one less copy of that card to pop up for sale, which is going to help pricing long term increase. So I would say overall it's a good thing. And it's not a good thing to be constantly auctioning all your cards.
We got to get some diamond hand holders, is what Nick is saying.
Yes.
Yeah, to me, I don't think it's inherently good or bad. I think a lot of these super high end trophies, very low print quantity, just inherently by the fact that there are single digits or low double digits in the world, a lot of people are never going to own them. And I think it's good for the hobby. Like 2020, kind of a similar question. The 2020 bubble, is that good or bad for the hobby? I think in some ways, for the people who came in, lost a bunch of money, it was bad. But for the hobby as a whole, I think it's good. I think the additional notoriety, the additional, like, it being shown to so many eyes, like, love it or hate it, big numbers draw eyes, draw clicks. And when Logan Paul buys a trophy for $5 million that he'll probably never sell back into the hobby, that he'll just diamond hand forever, it takes away the ability for anyone else to own it, and it makes it so some of these cards, true collectors, air quotes, can't afford, blah blah blah. You're not entitled to own everything and anything or everything. So to me, overall, I would say it's a slight positive, if anything, just because the numbers get bigger, people write articles about it, it becomes a thing in the news, it spreads awareness, it spreads, and yeah, like, not owning everything is fine. The saying is gotta catch them all. My name is Catch 'em All Collectibles, but you don't actually have to. So I think some people get really, like, weird about, oh, these people with all this money come in and they're taking away cards from true collectors, and I don't know. It's just kind of a strange take to me. That's the world we live in. It's been great too for some of the truest collectors who were buying these things for pennies on the dollar back in 2010, 2008, 2006, being able to sell them and, like, set themselves up for life because the hobby's grown so much and they were one of the early adopters in early and reaping the financial benefits from that. I think that's a great angle too for some of those people that, I mean, me being one of them to some extent on some of my items. But yeah, it's an interesting question and an interesting conversation regardless, I think. Classic said, all three of us are in his end of the year recap video, by the way. It's one of his much more intricate videos of the year. So much editing. I can't wait to see that. I love Classic's monthly videos. The year-end video, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. Any of his videos are worth watching. His videos are dangerous too, because you have to actually watch those videos. It's not one that you can just listen to. I always get so distracted when I'm watching his videos.
Yeah, his are very visual videos. I can, if I wasn't making this content right now, it would be on in the background while I was being 95% productive. Like, I would do a little bit of chat watching, I would do a little bit of hanging out in the chat, but I would be able to list, I would be able to photograph, pack orders at 95% efficiency probably. When the Classics video comes on, it's like 20% efficiency at most, because, like, I'm actually, like, I can't just listen, I have to watch this. So it's a unfortunate thing for my productivity, but it's a great thing for my viewing pleasure when a Classics video drops. And Pikachu says, Dan skipping right over those super chats, LOL. I saw him. I didn't want to interrupt Rusty. I knew we had him for just a limited time, so I wanted him to be able to expand fully on answering his questions. I do see we have another one right now. Let me jump right to that. Zard Looking 92 asks, do you think recent eBay policy changes have made it more difficult to sell and buy? And will there ever be another selling platform bigger than eBay? I mean, Amazon, I think, is bigger than eBay, but as far as for us, graded Pokemon cards, raw Pokemon cards, things like that, I don't think so. I think eBay, like, especially if they we talked about the eBay vault earlier, if they adapt that over time and kind of improve it over time to get to where PWCC eBay was in its heyday. I mean, they should be able to make it better than that, right? Because they are eBay themselves. So if they really get that ironed out in the next couple of years, I'm very bullish on eBay as a selling platform moving into the future. So I think eBay will be the biggest when it comes to graded and single slabs. Sealed product, Amazon's probably already bigger, if I had to guess. But eBay recent policy changes, I think they've made it easier to both buy and sell. As of right now, they're doing it for free. I think at some point it's going to come by the way of increased selling fees, which eBay selling fees are passed on to the buyer by raised prices, right? So ultimately it will be paid for by some share of the buyer and the seller. But the eBay authenticity guarantee is great, in my opinion. It makes it so I ship out a $1,000 slab, $10,000 slab. I have no concerns that I'm going to get scammed. I have no concerns they're going to say they received an empty box. eBay acts as a trusted middleman. They verify it's all there. Final sale. They forward it on to the buyer, and it's done deal. It's amazing. It's awesome. So two ways. As a buyer, if I'm buying a $250, $500, $1,000, $10,000 item for the first time ever, I don't have to be concerned because I see the authenticity guarantee check mark. I know that I don't have to trust the seller at all. I have to trust eBay. The seller has to send it to eBay. eBay verifies it, and I know that what I'm getting is a genuine thing that I actually bought. There's no concerns about empty boxes, things like that. So I think that's the biggest policy change eBay made of 2022, and I think it's one of the best they've made in the 18 years I've been selling on eBay, buying and selling on eBay. So yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I definitely think eBay will always be the biggest platform for collectibles, single cards, graded cards, stuff like that. And as far as policy changes, I think they're both beneficial to the buyer and seller, like you were saying. I know you mentioned like on the buyer end, you don't have to worry about the card being fake or whatever with the authenticity guarantee. But on the seller's end as well, it's awesome because you don't have to worry about scam buyers. You're shipping the stuff directly to PSA or CGC. And I know me personally, I felt a lot safer shipping cards directly to them and not really worrying about any issues that would come up versus if I was shipping to some random buyer who maybe even as simple as just put the wrong address in the checkout and never let me know. I've had that happen before, fortunately on low end cards, or just someone who's actually looking to scam you one way or the other. So I love the authenticity guarantee. I know some people think it's a negative, but overall I think it's definitely a net positive. And then the only other recent policy change that I know of is the one where if someone sends an offer, occasionally there'll be like a little text block saying this buyer agrees to prepay for the item. So basically, if you accept that offer, eBay will automatically charge that buyer's credit card. I think that's another really good policy on the seller's end. I don't know exactly when it'll like roll out to everyone where that's the case with everyone, because you definitely do run into cases where you accept an offer on eBay and then the person just never pays for the item. So that's kind of a pain, and it'll be nice once that kind of gets eliminated. And if they could ever do that for auctions, that would be an absolute game changer there. That would be really, really nice. But I don't know. Do you know, is there any other recent policies that changed?
You can think of? I think they're forcing more item specifics than they ever have. I definitely think they've revamped the category. You didn't used to have to put PSA, professional sports authenticators, in graded, and you didn't have to put yes that it was graded. Some of my oldest listings, when I go to sell similar, I need to make sure I don't sell similar off my oldest listings, because instead of having the proper professional sports authenticator, I just have the acronym PSA put in the authenticator, and it allows it to go. I need to, at some point I need to sit down and like fix all the ones where it's improper. But kind of what I'd rather do is just get rid of all my listings that are older than like 6 months old. It was about a year ago now that I did a full inventory. I'm not going to do it anytime soon, but maybe to like halfway do it. End every listing that's older than 6 months old or older than 8 months old. Out of my 2,000, I think it's only 300 or 400, maybe not even. So I could easily do that. Go verify, pull all those items, make sure they're actually there, and then relist all of those new as fresh new ones, just to make sure I get my new photo style format, my new listing style format, all that stuff.
Yep.
Let's see. I think I'm mostly caught up with chat. So yeah, feel free to leave questions in the chat. We're not like an hour behind as we were. There was a mass purge when my chat updated. Again, I apologize for that, but Java had a quick question I can hit. Are those sellers being paid to auction those cards at Heritage, PWCC, etc. for promotional purposes? Why would you auction otherwise? I don't think it's ever been, though, I mean, I could be wrong. There probably are items that have been sold through those auction houses for free because they're so high end, they're so premier that the auction company wants them so badly. Typically what happens though, you're not like getting paid to auction them, you're just selling for greatly reduced fees. So like default fees at most of these auction houses are like 20% buyer's premium. And what these companies will do, they'll give you a portion instead of giving you hammer price minus 10%. They'll give you 110% or 115% of hammer price. So basically they're taking like a 5% cut out of the buyer's premium and they're charging no seller's premium. Because like default at Heritage, I think, is a 20% buyer's premium and a 10% seller's fee. So they'll waive the seller's fee and they'll give you some of the buyer's premium. I've never heard though where like they give you 120% of hammer plus some amount of money. Though theoretically, like if you had an item that was that desirable, it probably would never be the case, but theoretically it could be. Who knows?
Yeah. I would find that hard to believe that they're actually paying you to sell that item, but the whole giving you 105, 110, whatever the final price is, that definitely does happen. And then I know, like with coins anyway. One of my dad's friends was a big coin dealer, and Heritage would occasionally reach out to him saying, "Hey, do you want to sell such and such a coin within this auction block? We're doing this kind of specific coin auction block, and we'd love to use one of your coins as like a highlight for that auction block." So I know they definitely do reach out to people to try and get stuff to sell, but I don't think they ever actually like pay people.
TCG Caravan asks, are any of you guys going to be utilizing eBay's live auction program? Probably not. My business strategy is just it's buy it nows. My business strategy is just I list it, I set it and forget it. I ship them when they sell. I don't really like auctions for selling.
Well, something we disagree on. I will 100% be using eBay Live. I cannot wait for that to actually roll out and start being offered on a on like a more like general level, where it's not just like these big highlight shows with big businesses selling certain products, and it's actually available to more and more sellers. Biggest thing for me is Whatnot is massively successful with these live stream auctions, and I think if eBay does it right, they could absolutely blow Whatnot out of the water. So Whatnot, you're limited with your user base. They spend an absolute fortune on advertising for their app. So they do have a decent user base, but eBay is one of the world's largest marketplaces. They have an absolutely massive user base. Everyone has the eBay app downloaded onto their phone. So if I went live on eBay and you were following my eBay store, you would get a notification on your phone. eBay also has all kinds of data on you based off of your eBay account. So what you like to look up, what you like to buy, what you like to view, all of that stuff. So maybe even if you don't follow my eBay store, and eBay sees that I'm going live selling Pokemon cards, they see that you are interested in Pokemon cards, maybe they'll send you a notification that, hey, Old School Pokemon is live on eBay. And so I think it could be really, really big. I also think it could go over poorly if eBay doesn't get it right out of the gate. I think that's the biggest thing as to why it's taking so long. I think eBay definitely wants to make sure everything is set up properly so that there's no really big glitches that happen when they officially roll it out to more and more sellers. But yeah, overall, I am really excited about the whole eBay Live platform, and will definitely use it similar to what I used Whatnot for. It'll be stuff that I don't want to list as buy it nows. Just a way to kind of clear through that like played excellent condition stuff that I don't like listing as buy it nows.
Yeah. Mr. Walrus asks, Pele has passed. Rest in peace, Pele. Thoughts on his cards and profits that will surely be made. Is it morbid? It is absolutely morbid. I remember when Kobe Bryant passed away in the helicopter crash. It's just what happens. People go to eBay, they buy out all the active listings so that they can just flip them into the news. And yeah, it's kind of a gross thing, but it's the reality. Someday we're all gonna go, right? A lot of these artists that are signing cards, it's just gonna be a thing around every single person because that's the way people are. And long term, I think generally what happens is there's like a bubble around any big news event, and then long term cards like just trend back to where they were going to be anyways. So yeah, there's probably short-term plays. I'm not gonna do any of that. I've never done anything with soccer cards anyways, but yeah, it's always gonna be a thing.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you on that one. It's definitely always going to be something that people do. It's probably always going to be something that works out for people too, where you can actually make a decent bit of money by buying these cards and then immediately flipping them. But yeah, for me, I keep busy enough without doing that, so I won't be getting into it
Without profiting off people's deaths. Yeah, that it's just weird, but it is what it is, I guess. Max asks, is there a Pokemon TCG product that does not exist sealed anymore? That's a very interesting question. 25 plus years, all the different niche products that have been made. There's by no means, like I'm confident that there exists one of every sealed mainstream product. There's absolutely an English booster box of every set, but when you get down into the really nichey stuff, could there be some random foreign EX era tin that didn't have a big print run, or could there be a random? Yeah, I don't know. My initial reaction is that everything was produced in such quantity and just the nature of collectors. Probably literally every sealed product that was officially packaged and released by Pokemon Company itself probably still exists sealed. But when you start thinking of the vast expanses of like just the really nichey stuff that was out there, Korean unlimited booster boxes, like that one's a main set release, so probably even, but yeah, was there some like really obscure thing? I don't even know what it would have been, but just the vast array of sealed products that were made over the years, some random obscure early Japanese deck or blister of some kind. It's impossible to know, but I guess it's an interesting thought experiment. I would wager, like if I had to guess one way or another, I would say no. I would say everything that has ever been created, at least one exists sealed, unless they made some random promotional one-off items that were opened. What about you? Yes or no, I guess.
I would agree with you again. I don't think there's I would find it hard to believe that there's really any mainstream product that was originally released sealed and isn't sealed anymore. I look at like the trainer A and B decks. Those are fairly hard to find, which makes me think they weren't printed a ton. But yet you can still readily find those available on eBay. Even like the WB creator packs, there were 5,250 of those supposedly made. You can still find those all day long sealed on eBay. Even like I know Rusty had prototype. He had like the prototype jungle blister. He had prototype Neo Destiny blisters. Even those were still sealed, and I'm sure there's not many of those. So I would find it hard to believe that there's any type of sealed product that isn't sealed anymore.
I guess one that I thought of that I can confidently say none exists sealed anymore. Art Academy. The cards came in 100 cards,
count.
100 cards sealed in a deck. Obviously, it wasn't a wide, broad for the public release, but yeah, Pokemon Company released. Every individual winner got 100 card sealed deck, as far as I understand, of their winning art. So I believe some of them kept them sealed, and that's why the whole extra copy thing got a lot of people mad. They kept their deck sealed. PSA started grading the extra copies, and now PSA is no longer grading any of them. But yeah, that's an official product that Pokemon created and released, not publicly. They released it privately to the individual winners, but some of them no longer remain sealed. That's the only answer I could come up with.
I like Mr. Walsh's next question. Can you listen to best and worst guests you've had?
Oh God, there's no winning that. Speak That Chew asks, what have you both noticed is the worst time of the year to auction/sell cards, and what is the best? I think that every time that someone's looking for like a best or a worst or like a general rule of thumb, there just doesn't exist one. Auctions are so variable that there's not like, oh, January is always the worst, August is always the best. Oh, the third Sunday of July. Yeah, it's never going to be that. Auctions, you only get a week. If you're two buyers, you need two buyers to have a good auction, right? You need two buyers that are going to bid each other up, and you're going to get one increment above the second highest bidder. They could be looking on Christmas night. They might be, yeah, whatever reason, they could be looking on Christmas night, and your auction can perform better than it would have any other day. So yeah, seasonally, everyone has their own thoughts and theories, and every time I hear that, it's just like, okay, I don't know what that's actually based on, but yeah, I'm not even gonna like guess a month or a season, because I just think it doesn't work like that at all.
I agree with you for the most part. I do think there are like general rule of thumbs to follow. Don't have your auction ending in like an obscure time, middle of like a workday, super early in the morning. And then this time of year, for me anyway, I would not want to be auctioning stuff, especially this week where we had, so Christmas would be, say I listed something, the start of the auction would be Christmas, the end of the auction would be New Year's Day. I think that would be the absolute worst time to have an auction. Even like buy it now sales for me this week have been pretty slow. I usually do it's usually like 40 to 50 orders per day. This past week has been like 20 to 30 orders per day. So for me anyway, this week is a very, very slow week, and it's been like that historically speaking for me. Yeah, I would say this week would be the worst time to auction stuff. And then the best time, I don't think there really is like a really, really good time.
Best time
meaning
is
like
never.
a specific month. But I would say I've always ended like my bigger auctions Sunday night. That's kind of always been the thing that I've heard is kind of like the best time to have auctions end. But yeah, there's constantly auctions ending on eBay, and there's a lot more factors that go into it than just when did it start and when did it end. It also depends on like the pictures, the title, the actual seller, all of that stuff.
Yeah. Os Tenor. Question: besides the big three, PSA, BGS, CGC, what would be your fourth grading service of choice for value, aesthetic, or any other reason? I wouldn't even pick a fourth. I think we're covered with three, honestly, is my answer. I've seen a lot of other cases, I've seen a lot of other cards. I think they're fine. Like I collect cards, not companies, but I think there's no aspect or no angle that any of those three companies don't cover. So I'm not even gonna name a fourth personally. Yeah.
I'll take that one step further and say we don't even need a third.
Yeah.
PSA and CDC covered everything.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, no. PSA is by far number one for me. CGC is number two for me. That's your subgrade option. That's your kind of perfect / black label option. BGS, I'm not a fan of them whatsoever. So I would cross them off the list, and then anyone else is not going to make it long term. That's a very quickly dying business, at least in the US. When you talk about outside of the US, I think there is some opportunity there for an international grading company to open up. But in the US, I think it's a dying business.
And I think like it's funny because the way that I answered that question, it's probably going to sound really strange the next thing I say. But I think all those 4th through 100th grading companies, if you like their product, they're fine. They're not going to be great for resale value because people don't know whether they can trust their objective grades they give off. But grading a card is not hard. Like if you just want, if there's a company that provides to you, if you like their label, if you like the presentation, and the fee that they charge you is worth it to you as a collector for the product they provide, it's all fair play to me. Like, don't do it thinking you're going to be able to sell it for a premium. Don't think that XYZ10 is going to equal the premium of CGC, BGS, or CGC10 or PSA. I think I might have said CGC twice there. But yeah. If someone is willing to slab your cards and put them with a cool label, color match, this, that, whatever for $5 and you like it and it makes you appreciate your cards more, like that's all fine too. But I don't personally need it. My business is served. My collecting tastes are served with those three fully. Let's see. Yeah, there's Mr. Walrus's list best to worst guests you had on PokeFlipz. I'll pass on that one. They're all good. They're all tied for first.
They're all tied for first. What are your top 148 favorite first gen Pokemon?
Oh god. Let's see. Skater Nesto, he's been in the chat close to jumping, he said. So here's his question that's going to save the entire live stream. What is another error you would consider collecting? Is it base set errors or a bust?
Yes. I'm not really that big into errors actually. For me, it's just I love Shadowless base set. That's by far my favorite set of all time. And the No Damage Ninetales is the error within that set. So when I originally found out about that card, I really, really wanted it. And back when I found out about it, I was in a sophomore in high school, junior in high school. Really didn't have that much money, so I couldn't justify spending however much, $50, $100 on that card back then for my own collection. Back then I was strictly doing this as a business. Really didn't care about collecting back then. So then when I finally did get one for my for myself, I was just super happy about that, and that quickly escalated into just buying them up. But as far as errors in general, really not a huge fan of error collecting. I would another error that I would consider is one of the like WotC hollow shifts. I do really like those cards. But they're also really expensive. So I wouldn't want to pay market value for one of those cards.
Me personally, I think all errors should have been caught by QC and should have been destroyed on site. And I think errors are offensive to me. That's where I'm at on errors.
Wow.
Yeah.
You got quite the stance there.
I mean, you gotta get off the fence, and you gotta have some bold stances from time to time, right? So, Mr. Mime is French asks top 3 Japanese exclusive arts. Give some examples: red, green gift set, vending, etc. I will say, for me, Trophy Pikachu 1, 2, 3, and then honorable mentions: Mew Orb, Master's Key, Wonder Platinum, just to get some diversity in there. Cards that don't even feature primarily Pokemon on them. Master Scroll is a cool looking card too. They would be the higher end, like promo type ones that I would pick.
For me, it would be I'm actually going to follow the question and not answer every single Japanese exclusive card. It would definitely be the number 3 Trophy Pika. Second for me would actually be the CD promo Charizard. I absolutely love that card. And then third for me would be I would have to go with like I guess I'm disobeying my own rule by picking 3 specific cards, but the vending series 3. Specifically 3. So that eliminates it down to 54 cards. But yeah, the vending series I absolutely love. And then the number 3 Pika just looks really cute. Absolutely love that card. And then the CD promo Charizard is just that one's absolutely love the artwork on that card.
Yeah, it's the box art for Pokemon Red, right? Very nostalgic.
Yep.
Max asks, how about a Japanese no rarity booster box? Is there a sealed one? And is it even possible to see if it's a no rarity one? So our boy James, Z&G Emporium, had what was probably one of the few short crimp boxes left in the world, probably. He recently showed in a video, so I don't think it's spoilers at this point, but clearly he cracked the box. And I presume that he opened one of the packs and it wasn't no rarity cards, because had he opened one and it had been no rarity cards, I'm assuming a video would have come out. I'm assuming a pack sale would have ensued. But yeah, anyways, so we can't know from a sealed booster box, as far as I understand, if no rarity cards are enclosed, but we do know that no rarity cards have a chance to come from the short crimp packs. And James did have one that he removed from existence by opening it. How many more out there exist? I have no idea. At the time that he acquired one, it was the first one he was ever aware of. I've never been offered one. I'm not aware of the existence of any others out there. So who knows? Maybe James opened the final one of those that existed. I doubt it though. I would expect there's more out there, just probably few.
Yeah, I would I don't think that would count as a sealed product not existing, just because we don't know. Like, when you have that sealed box, you can tell that it's going to be the short crimp packs, but there's no way to tell, is it going to have the rarity symbol or not, without actually opening it. And I know even like with the Japanese starter decks, I know people have talked about different like the different barcodes and the different numbers, one having a higher chance of no rarity versus one not. And even then, I don't think there's like a definitive thing that says this barcode is going to have no rarity cards inside. I think it's all just a gamble at that point.
Yeah.
But I was surprised we didn't see any videos of him opening that box. They had like touched on it in a few of their podcasts. So I had an idea that he had opened it, but then his recent video showing the graded packs was like the first time that I don't think he even talked about opening it then, but that was kind of the giveaway for me anyway.
Yeah, I think it was probably recorded, and had it gone a better way, it probably would have been released as a video. But I think it went the way that it was not hoped to go. Ideally, it would have been opening that first pack to verify it, pulling a no rarity holo card. Pulling the Charizard would have been like a bittersweet thing, because it would have been like, okay, we just pulled a Charizard, but every time you sold a pack thereafter, even though you can get more than one Charizard in a box, people would have been like, oh, a Charizard's already been pulled, my odds go down now. So
Go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say, so like when I pulled that Charizard live on stream for my one box, it was great that I pulled a Charizard, but then it's like, yeah, when I sell the 11 other heavies, people are gonna ask, I'm gonna have to say a Charizard was pulled, and they're gonna be less likely to want to buy.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking if you did have that box, you opened one of the packs and it was no rarity, would you sell the packs or would you open everything and grade the cards?
I'd weigh them all.
I think I would be tempted to open and grade the cards because you're going to pull multiple Charizards, multiple of every holo. So it's interesting.
I would price them so high. The nice thing is you have 60 packs, so I would have a light pack price, because I think some people, like, there are some people chasing, like PSA 10 Pikachu no rarity, I think just went for 7 or 8K. So like there's even there's a fair bit of value in even the commons and uncommons. I think you might be able to get a decent sealed premium, like not even graded, just sealed, light. So I would open one to verify the box, probably a light one. And I would start marketing, hey, I've got guaranteed, like, same box, and I would show the video, and I would just see the rate at which they sold. I would be in no rush to sell them. I would just go from there. Like, I don't know what the numbers would even be, what a heavy pack would be, what a light pack would be, but I'd list them for a lot. And I'm like, given that you have 30 heavy, 30 light, I would probably hang on to 3 to 4 of them for myself for special events, special occasions, whatever. That's the great thing about a Japanese box, like not just having 12 heavies, but you actually have 30 for base with jungle and fossil. I mean, you have a holo in every pack. So that's the great thing about like breaking a product down. One box, you can either sell it as a sealed box, right? Or you can open it. Once you open it, you have a lot more options, though. You can open a few, like you could go half and half. You could open 15 of each. You could open 15 heavy, 15 light, grade everything, and then have 15 of each to slow sell as you see fit. So you don't really have to go.
That is true.
You don't have to go full on one way or the other.
Yep.
Kawa Poki asks, what do you think of first edition base set cards signed by Arita, like investment into the future? There are only 48 Charizards in the world at the moment. I don't like hardly anything long-term investment wise. Signed cards would be way down on the list, especially Arita signed cards, because he's always signing more. 48 is all that there are currently authenticated by PSA. But every time he has another event, I'm sure a couple more are getting signed. There's probably a lot of them out there still raw that have never been authenticated or graded. So, I mean, going back to the whole Pele thing, the whole morbid nature of it, whenever Arita passes, I mean, we all will eventually, there will probably be a big bump and there will probably be a lot of hype, people profiting off of it. So there's probably like a short-term play around that. But like long-term, I'm not a huge fan of signed cards. I'm not a fan of investing in Pokemon cards, signed or not. So yeah, I'm not crazy about it.
He also added talking about higher condition signed cards, not authenticated or something like PSA 4 first base Charizard, let's say minimum PSA 7. I don't know if that changes your answer at all.
Not really. There's a ton of PSA 7, PSA 8, even PSA 9 condition base first Charizards out there. Obviously, the day that he passes, no more will come into existence signed. But I don't even fully believe in that, because I believe, like, I just don't believe in autograph authentication at all. And I think that if the prices went up enough, whatever, I think PSA can be fooled. And I think even after some big people like this pass, I think examples get signed by forgers that ultimately get through grading. And yeah, I don't like the signed market at all.
Yeah, that's something we agree on. I feel the same way about signatures. I have one Imakuni signature that I got at Worlds in DC. I would never pay market price for a signature, and I just don't really like signatures either. The one that I have is cool because I was at the event, I got to meet him, all of that stuff. But just even just like get a random signature card, like if someone mailed me a free signed card of Arita, Sugimori, whatever, it would be nice of them, but I really wouldn't appreciate it like some other people would. So yeah, and then the whole thing that you mentioned about PSA grading fake signatures, that's an issue. But then on the flip side of that, it's also an issue where PSA isn't grading legitimate signatures.
Yeah.
I know Swolepoke, he used to post a whole bunch on his stories about signatures, cards that he had submitted into PSA getting denied, not getting authenticated by PSA when he knew that they were legitimate signatures. So that's another issue, and I think that's a fairly big problem, that PSA isn't authenticating these legitimate signatures, yet they are authenticating these forgeries.
I think it's offensive to the manufacturers of the cards to ink the beautiful artwork that they produced on a card. So I think it's morally wrong that the artist will even sign them, because it's just disrespectful to the workers who made those back in '99.
What if you have one of the workers sign it though? Is that okay?
Well, then that's disrespectful to the artist who created the art that was printed onto the cardboard. So it's just offensive from every angle.
Oh,
Pokey
man.
Martin asks, "Can you rip a Shadowless deck every year on your birthday to try and find a I'm assuming a no rarity, or yeah, no damage Ninetales?"
I would love to do that. I never would. I do not have the courage, like
or the
Rusty over
bankroll.
there was opening gold strip decks left and right there for a while. But yeah, I would never be able to do that.
The nice thing is, when you own so many, opening a few here and there, you increase the value of your others, right? That's maybe
That
the
is
thought
true.
behind
That
it.
is true. Oh man.
Mr. Walrus, do you guys wear diapers to avoid bathroom breaks during lives like the big YouTubers? Oh God. That's funny. I don't personally. Occasionally you'll see one of our screens, our cameras turn off for a couple minutes, and I think that's generally what we're doing. But oftentimes I think we're able, if it's 2 to 4 hours, I can usually make it. Even though I'm down on these Coca-Colas, I can usually make it a live stream without having to take a break.
Yeah, I'm usually I usually am pretty good about that. I don't wear diapers or anything like that either.
Max asks, where do you all draw the line between vintage/modern? Me personally, I think starting March of 2023, I'm gonna call vintage anything with a yellow border, modern anything with a silver border.
What? That's stupid.
No, realistically, when I think vintage, I think of WotC. So vintage is WotC, everything through Sky Ridge, and then mid era, old school EX to Color Legends. So just pre black and white, and then I call modern like black and white to the end of Sun and Moon, and I would call like ultra modern the entire Sword and Shield block. So I guess Sword and Shield when we roll into Scarlet and Violet will be kind of like modern. Whatever's in print, I would call ultra modern. So maybe like 2 years is ultra modern. Behind that's modern. That's where I go to on that.
Yeah, I would pretty much have the same breakdown there. Did you say mid era
Old school
Diamond and Pearl
EX
to black and white?
Old school EX to Call Legends. So old school EX era, Diamond and Pearl Platinum, Heart Gold Soul Silver, Call Legends all in one. For mid era, I call.
Okay. Yeah, I would add black and white to the mid era. That's the only thing I would change.
Let's see. As time goes on and sealed product becomes more scarce, how do you guys deal with lower back pain in your everyday life? Oh, Mr. Walrus. Mr. Walrus is always got the good questions. It's funny. I'm actually 32. What did I do the other day? I didn't even like do anything, and somehow I like hurt my back. Oh yeah, I was building the Mario Lego set my son got for Christmas, and we were just sitting on the floor for like an hour maybe, building it, playing with it a bunch, and I didn't even know you have to download all these apps. Like they don't come with the instruction manual anymore. Yeah, you have to download an app. You have to download the instructions set by set. And I had just like sat there for like an hour. And when I got up later the rest of the day, I'm like, man, that kind of wrecked me. I'm gonna have to get a table set up in his room for building Lego sets now, I guess. But yeah. Funny question.
Oh yeah.
Question. So this is a question for me by Ernesto. What is Nick's favorite Pokemon? It's Squirtle. Favorite food? Yep. I'm gonna guess steak.
No. I don't think we've ever talked about favorite foods.
Maybe not. We're gonna learn more about each other, and everyone's gonna learn about us too. And then let me guess the last one too. Favorite color? I'm gonna guess blue.
Yep. Yeah. You got 2 out of the 3.
2 out of 3.
Favorite food would be fried clams.
Ooh, fried clams. That's an interesting one. Now you guess for me.
Okay, so Pokemon's Charmander. Color. Ooh, I want to say blue, but then I'm thinking red. I'm gonna go with blue. And then food. Yours would have to be steak.
It's tough because like I don't really often have like a singular Charmander. I'll give you. I mean, it's been my mascot for so long. Charmander's one of my favorite. I don't know that I have a standalone favorite. Color, blue and green. You said blue and red, so we'll give you half there or something. Favorite food, steak. Steak would be up there. Probably my top 3 foods probably are a really, really good ribeye, but that's probably like second. Crab legs. I love crab legs. Crab legs are probably number 1, honestly. And then a really, really good steak, and then chicken wings. I love chicken wings. So you get me a buffet that has crab legs, chicken wings, and steak. We're all about it then. In Orlando, remember we went to that Brazilian steakhouse, that Churrascario?
That was really good. Yep.
I love those places. So you got I mean you got like all 3 of yours. I mean you guessed 2 for colors, kind of cheating. You got one of my 2. Pokemon, you got one of my top 5. I don't really have a standout like favorite Pokemon. So I think you got mine pretty well. And then I got 2 out of your 3. So where would steak be for you? We just know
each other pretty well.
Steak would be up in your top. Steak would be up in your top 5, right? What I guessed.
Top 5, I would say so. Yeah. Yep.
Fried clams. Though.
I don't know if it would make my top 3. I don't know. I would say top 3 would be fried clams, pizza, and tacos.
I just had
But
pizza
maybe
for
steak
lunch.
tacos.
Pizza's up there for me too, but I never would. If you gave me 50 guesses, I would have never went fried clams. That's really interesting. Like I love steamed clams, or like I do them on the grill over the summer, like little neck clams. I love clams, but I'm not crazy about fried like clam strips. I pretty greasy, but I mean, saying that, I like chicken wings, which are obviously pretty greasy too. But uh let's see. That was a fun little favorite Pokemon was in there, but it was mostly not Pokemon. Mr. Walrus wants you to make a public retraction and apology from your previous podcast on the blasphemous comments on God of War.
I forgot about that, actually. I told him I was going to do that. So anyone who watched the last podcast, towards the end, I talked about how God of War was an absolutely terrible game. After that podcast, Mr. Walrus generously bought God of War for me for my birthday. So thank you, Mr. Walrus. Do appreciate that. And I must say, it is a decent game. I told him I would give it I'm pretty sure I said 6 out of 10. So
6 out of 10.
It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But yeah, it's a pretty good game. The story is actually really good. I'm hooked onto the story. The whole only being able to have a bow and arrow and an axe as a weapon is kind of iffy for me. I like games where you have guns, but yeah, it's definitely better than my original statement.
Yeah, bow and arrow and axe do not make the top 10 list for favorite weapons for sure. Oh man. Oz Tenor asks, have you guys played Scarlet or Violet yet? I've not. I don't know. I started a save game for Sun and Moon, and I think I made it through the first couple. They weren't called gyms. What were they called? I can't even think now. They had some special name for what the gym battles were called, and I made it through like a couple, and then I was done. I didn't play Sword and Shield at all. I'd love to play them all at some point, but I'm not making the time right now to do it.
Yeah, I have not either. I played Arceus for a while. Really like that one, but I haven't played Scarlet and Violet.
Pokin Fun asks, if you want to remain a top-rated seller on eBay and still sell 99-cent to $10 singles, do you use PWE or eBay's new PWE tracking? Don't some percent have to be tracked sales? Absolutely. It's called the eBay standard envelope. If you're selling one single, a stamp is like 60 or 63 cents now. eBay standard envelope is like what? 65 or 70 cents? It's like a couple cents more. And it gives you tracking. It allows you to hit your metrics. It allows you to not just get scammed if somebody claims not received. Because if you don't upload tracking and they claim not received, they auto win. So yeah, eBay standard envelope is like necessary for sub. You can only go up to $20 with it, but it's absolutely needed for those singles.
They actually recently sneakily changed it. I didn't even notice. But individual cards have to be $20 or under. But now you can put multiple $20 cards in that same PWE standard envelope. As long as the value is under 50, which I thought was interesting. I think that's way too high of a value to ship eBay standard envelope, but I did think that was interesting.
It's reasonable though to me, because like say you have two $15 singles. If you ship those for like tracked regular first class, that's like $4.50 depending on where it's going. That's over 10%. That's 15% like just for shipping. Obviously, if you're shipping a $1.50 single, even the eBay standard envelope is, I mean, if you ship a $1.50 order, 60 cents is, I mean, that's like That's like 40% of the
50%?
transaction value, almost 50%. Yeah. So, but to me, it feels reasonable. Anytime over 20, though, I didn't even realize that. If it's over 20, I go first class.
That's what I do. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Outside of the whole tracking to be top rated seller with eBay standard envelope, eBay standard envelope is just way easier than using PWEs too. So if you're still using PWE, I would stop that and switch over to eBay standard envelope, because with the PWEs, I remember you had to go into each individual order, copy the address, paste the address onto the PWE, print it out. But with the eBay standard envelope, you can go in and just check all of those orders that you're shipping eBay standard envelope, and then print, and it'll print all of those envelopes right with a few clicks of a button. So it's way easier, and definitely a game changer. I'm hoping now that eBay bought TCG Player, they kind of bring that system over to TCG Player as well, because TCG Player is back like how eBay used to work, where you're copying, pasting that address one by one, and it's definitely kind of a pain. But on the flip side, the tracking information with standard envelope is absolutely terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. That was one of the things we talked about when eBay bought TCG Player. It's kind of a logical thing that they would get the whole eBay standard envelope over to TCG Player. They haven't yet, but I would expect them to eventually, because that's huge. That's so big.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, the platform has to mediate any issues between buyer and seller, and when you add tracking, it eliminates so many issues, and it eliminates so many headaches from both sides. So that's going to be beneficial to the platform themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And the whole conversation we just had, Alex in the chat, PWE tracking, is that a joke or a real thing? Because I'd love to use that if it was. Yeah, absolutely. It's called, look up eBay standard envelope. It only exists and it only works in the certain categories, like trading card categories. As far as I understand, you can't use it for, like, I don't know what else would fit in a plain white envelope type thing. But yeah, eBay standard envelope, it will be an option in your listings when you list in the proper categories.
One thing, like with coins, I forget where I put, like, the plastic coins. There's a specific category for Pokemon coins. I forget the category name, but that's one that's not eligible for eBay standard envelope. And I ship all of my coins eBay standard envelope, so I had to change the category to individual cards or whatever. Yeah,
I saw that.
Was strange.
Yep, I saw that on I don't have listings for any Pokemon coins, I don't believe, but I saw it on the MetaZoo poker chips. I was selling some MetaZoo poker chips individually from the Kickstarter thing they did. And yeah, I don't think I ever did change. I thought about changing to the category where I could use the standard envelope, but those are kind of thick anyway, so I thought it was pushing it. I just left them where they were, and I think I charged like $3 shipping on them. So if people buy more, they benefit from lower shipping. One of the few things where I don't have free shipping, I think. Pokey Martin going with the walrus format of question. Now that Zard UPC promos are hitting $30 and a 9, what are your plans for New Year's Eve? So had the promos been $50 in a PSA 9, my plans would have been completely different. But given that they're now $30 in a PSA 9, I've drastically changed my New Year's Eve plans. But yeah, generally what I do with my in-laws, we do like Christmas over there on New Year's Eve. So we do like we hang out there, gift exchange with that side of the family. So that's my plans for this year. On New Year's Eve. What about you?
Yeah, I never really do much for New Year's Eve. I'm not a huge fan of like going somewhere with massive crowds, and that's how like every bar is on New Year's Eve. So I'm not a huge fan of that. So what I usually do is just go out for a good dinner, come back home, watch the ball drop on TV, and that's about it. Pretty lame New Year's Eve for me.
Let's see. Skater Nesto. Dan thinks a good meal is Pizza Hut large with wings and a Coke. No, I do like national chain pizza. Pizza is so good that even like bad pizza is still good. Like Pizza Hut, Little Caesars, Domino's. I still like those, but they're not nearly as good as like real pizza. Like we have some family-owned pizzerias near me, just one-off pizza places that no one else would know the name to. Those are my optimal places to go. Pizza Hut, Little Caesars, their wings are terrible. Like I get real chicken wings. Like there are so many bars near me that have a wing night. That one night they'll do like 50-cent wings or whatever. And then like good pizzerias, mom and pop pizzerias make good wings. There's actually one place pretty close to me. During the pandemic, wings got insane, over $1 a piece, like crazy. There's a place near me though. I actually just picked up a couple slices for lunch on the way back from FedEx, and $30 for a large pizza and 30 wings. So I get a large plain and 30 everything wings for $30. Every Wednesday night they have it. So I don't go there every week, but probably like every other week we do that. And that's like pizza and wings together, one of the top meals. Like my two top meals together would be pizza and wings, or like steak and seafood, steak and crab legs. Like when we went to Vegas, when we got those aged ribeyes and we got the king crab as the appetizer, that's like,
that was so good.
Yeah, that's like one of the top meals ever for sure. Pretty pricey though.
Now, what kind of pizza is the best? Thin crust, Greek style, deep dish?
I like just like a thinner crust, just like a pan pizza. I do like some of the more exotic ones, but my staple, my go-to is just a large plain pizza with everything wings. I think those are kind of a regional thing around me. It's a blue cheese and hot sauce, heavy sauce. They do a little bit of barbecue. Some of them put a little bit of honey mustard. They say everything. They don't actually put everything in it. Usually it's more like blue cheese and hot sauce.
Yeah, I had never had that place that we went to when I went to visit you. Those were actually really good.
Yeah. When Nick came, we went to a local bar near me that has really good wings. And Nick agrees the wings were good. And then we got dinner at the steakhouse. So we got some of the best foods in one day. It was a good day of food.
It was not a good day of making money, but losing money, we did really good.
Yeah. We kept the casino in business for another couple days.
Yes.
Colson says, if sushi isn't top 3, I'm all set. Sushi's like a category. Sushi's so broad. I do really like sushi. I'm bad though with like, I don't even know what the ones I like are called. And I think the sushi that I've eaten is a very Americanized version of sushi. I don't know if Colson's talking like the more traditional. I don't know if he's like a sushi purist talking about the traditional stuff, and I'm talking about the Americanized versions. But sushi's up there, top 10 maybe, top 15. It's just pretty broad. There are some that I don't like at all, and there are some that are really good. Card Palace asks, back to Pokemon, how do you guys build your inventory? If you want to start there, because I've been going first on a bunch of these.
How do I build inventory? It's just something that happens over time. You just get into a habit of constantly buying without selling as much as you're buying. It's a bad habit to be in, but that's kind of what happened, and it worked out well, fortunately. But no, more seriously, building inventory. Just be on the lookout for different collection opportunities that come up. I used to find a whole bunch of collections on Facebook. eBay is obviously a good one. There's a lot more eyes on eBay though, but eBay, Facebook, Instagram, even like Heritage, Goldin. I just picked up a really good purchase off of Rare Candy, their last auction block. So there's a bunch of different options that you could look through to find these different collections, and then once you get those collections, process it, list everything however you go about listing everything, whether that be single cards, grading cards, lots of cards, however you go about it. And then I would definitely recommend to process that collection and then start looking for your next collection, so you don't end up in a position where you have all of these cards yet not everything isn't listed, and then you stress out about having to get everything listed and all of that fun stuff. But yeah, it's more so something that's going to definitely take time. You're not going to instantly get into this and have a massive inventory. It's going to happen over the course of years and years and years, where you're slowly building up your available funds, you're purchasing bigger and bigger collections, and you're building a larger and larger inventory.
Yeah, I think Nick covered that real well. Although shots fired on not just buying and buying and buying and getting buried underneath everything, because that's all I do. I think the only thing he didn't add was we both do like wholesale distribution too. So we're constantly buying all the new releases, but yeah, he covered about everything. I don't know if you're familiar with this, not asking for your guys' opinion on either of these people, just the actual situation. Any thoughts on AGS and Gary King Pokemon, Opossum Bud's recent video? I didn't see that.
I did not see that recent video. I don't have any comment on that. I know he loves AGS and loves the guys who run AGS. And as much as I love Gary, I don't agree with the whole AGS thing. Like I said, no idea what the video was actually talking about, but I think I like the technology behind AGS, as far as like the robo grading and all of that stuff go, but I don't think AGS as a company is the company that's going to like propel that into the future. I think if anything, AGS will just get bought up by PSA, CGC, BGS. But yeah, no, AGS is like a company alone. Not a big fan.
Seeing to me, like, I have no idea what they're charging for grading. I think I know one thing that they did. They had some crypto associated with their brand early on, and I actually talked to one of the founders, one of the guys in Vegas, and he was trying to push it, and I didn't like that aspect. But to me, like, if you like the idea of the AI grading, computer grading, whatever, if you like the product and you value it towards what they charge, I think it's a reasonable thing to buy and go ahead with. Like, don't expect that you're going to get 10 prices, PSA 10 prices on AGS 10 price cards. Don't expect you're going to get like 1-to-1 ratio. Whether or not that's valid, whether or not, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know what's referenced here. I think Gary actually has some, I don't know if he has ownership or whatever. I think that's mentioned though. I think it's mentioned right in his Instagram, right in, but I know people get weird about like being sponsored by brands, being sponsored by people, but as long as you disclose it, as long as you're upfront about it, which as far as I know, he has been, I think it's listed right in his Instagram. So yeah, I don't think people are weird with advertising. I talked about it a lot in my whole Magic 30th video, but people like demonize advertising. So I don't understand that. Hard Palace says, having a tough time building inventory. Normally have 50 to 100 PSA graded cards. I search eBay listings as well as eBay collections, but can't seem to find an efficient way to build inventory to submit the PSA. It all depends on your cash flow. Like, I don't know what type of stuff is in your wheelhouse. I don't know what type of stuff you're looking for, but there's lots of stuff out there. Like, there's plenty of stuff out there. I don't know if it's a cash flow situation that you're unable to source the 50 to 100 cards. I don't know if that's per week, per month, per year, whatever you're talking about, specifically your rate. But yeah, you just got to dig deeper, I guess, because they're out there. PSA is grading 1 million cards a month, not all Pokemon, but 1 million cards a month, and those are all being sourced, opened, pulled from somewhere.
Speaking of PSA grading that many cards, have you seen we're up to 7 certs now?
Oh yeah. The Shining
That's
Mewtwo.
It feels like we just got into like 5 certs.
Yeah, the return I just got back was 6-9 era, but I do have a couple cards on consignment that were, I think they were a higher service level because there was a PSA 10 Shining Mewtwo in there, Japanese, and there was a bunch of PSA 10 Shiny Star V, or not, yeah, Shiny Star V or something like that.
Mhm.
And those were all 7 certs. So yeah, we're in the 70 million cert era. It's crazy.
Really is.
Pokin' fun. I had someone send me an eBay PWE tracked envelope in a brown cardboard like eBay envelope. Where do I get those? Shipping supply shop /tricks. How to keep V-Boxes first class. So I don't think everyone knows this, but if you pay for a store subscription, you get a quarterly coupon for the eBay shipping supply store. Google it, look it up. You'll find a link to it. There's a link where you navigate to get your code. I think it's called eBay Shipping Supplies is the name of the store. They probably sold right in there, and you can get them for free. Essentially, if you're already paying for a store, it's free, with your quarterly credit. So yeah, check that out. I believe it's just called eBay Shipping Supplies on eBay. Other than that, though, like I buy most of my shipping supplies on either eBay or Amazon, are usually the cheapest. Buying 500 at a time of the padded envelopes, things like that.
Yeah. Those brown cardboard envelopes, absolutely love those. I use those for modern jumbo cards. That's how I mail all my modern jumbo cards that I'm selling for $2-3. I literally just throw the jumbo right into the envelope and throw a label on it, and off it goes. And I have had very, very little times where the jumbo actually got damaged in transit. It does happen, but if I added like cardboard on either side, it would become too thick for that service. So that's why I don't. And then all the other stuff is I buy all my other shipping supplies on eBay. With the last part of that question, the V boxes staying first class mail.
Oh, I missed that.
You just want to look for completely skipping his question.
Yeah.
You just want to look for, so measure the actual box and get a shipping box that's very similar sized. So that way you can just pretty much just fold up the box, put the V box inside, and mail it off. Maybe throw some packing paper on top. But that should cover you for that one. The trouble with the V boxes now is there's multiple different sizes. So you'd have to get each size as they come out.
I pulled up another question from Mr. Walrus. Do you think the bubble and hype of 2020 brought out all the prototype cards we're seeing 25 years later? Yeah, I think all that media hype, all that stuff, all the prices going nuts, it definitely brought a lot of stuff out. Did it bring all of them out? Probably not. There's probably still things that we'll see in the future that we've never seen before, but absolutely, all that exposure unearthed a lot of things that people, oh yeah, let me check my closet. I probably have my old WotC binder. I probably have that old thing I got from my cousin who worked at WotC, that, yeah, uncut sheet, whatever it may be. A lot of things definitely came out of the woodwork.
Yeah, I think same thing. 2020 definitely brought a lot of stuff out that we hadn't seen beforehand. I think that's a huge part of why we're seeing it so much later. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what other stuff gets uncovered over the years.
I'm gonna do a PSA cert lookup right now, but DNA in the chat, since we hit cert 70 million, what are your thoughts on the future value of cert 69,696,969? Let's see what it is. So sorry, the cert number provided was not found in the database.
Oh man.
Huh.
They kept that one for themselves.
Let me go one higher and see if it's there. Maybe they did just skip it. I don't see it. Maybe they've not used them because what they do is kind of weird. But like mine right here are 69,001,992. They might still be in the mid 69 millions, not having got all the way to 70 million. And then they're like starting in the 70s. So two kind of separate numbers are going on at once because that's happened multiple times. Like Pokemon, there are some, but there's almost no 3 million, 30 million Cert era Pokemon cards. Most of them are 2s or 4s. 3s were largely being used for sports cards, I think. For whatever reason, they just skipped that whole 10 million Cert block for Pokemon, but not completely because there are some.
Yeah, I would love to know PSA's logic behind how they determine like cert numbers, because it doesn't just go in order. This submission receives 1 through 10, next one 10 through 20. It's super sporadic.
If you want to pull, I don't know if it's up for you yet. Maybe it's not. Ernesto's got a question for you though. Question.
I saw that in the chat. What Pokemon do I want to be on?
Shout out to Ernesto. I don't have my since we're using Zoom now, I can't really go to it because we'll lose Nick. But Nick won't see it for about 30 seconds. Ernesto made these custom cards for me where it's Snore Dan and then it's a Pikachu with Nick's face on it. He gave me these last year for Christmas, I think. So yeah, your Squirtle today. What other Pokemon would you like to be featured on in future thumbnails? We know you love to be a Butterfree, right?
Yeah, please not a Butterfree.
Oh God.
I don't know. I'm kind of liking the Pikachu vibes with that Pikachu card there.
Yeah.
Pikachu would be pretty cool. Yeah, just no lame Pokemon. I don't want to be a Muck or a Butterfree like you had me on, or a Weedle.
More like a Dustox or a Vivillon or one of the other flying insects.
That's definitely more me.
Maybe a Beedrill.
Beedrill, he's way better than a Butterfree.
This one's funny because it's the second time I put up. The first time I read this username, I read it as Goo Range 315. But now I'm realizing it's Go Orange 315. So I live really close to Syracuse. Syracuse Orangeman, the area code is 315. I don't know how I didn't notice that the first time. But yeah, it's not Goo Range 315. It's Go Orange, Go Syracuse 315. For old school Pokemon, as he runs more auctions, thoughts around promoting auctions on eBay, at least for a seller that may not have a following built up. Do you ever do promoted listings on your auctions?
To be honest, I did not even know that was a thing. I knew you could do it with Buy It Nows, but I didn't know it was a thing for auctions.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't. And the reason why is because right now, for the promoted listings that I do, it's on stuff that I have very little into and that I have a near endless supply of. So for example, like the Team Rocket storage boxes that I'm selling, have those listed for $20. I paid $2 a piece for those back in the day, and I probably have 300 left. So those are going to last me for a very long time. Same thing goes with the pins. I do promoted listings on all of those, into them for very little, have an absolute massive supply of them. So that's kind of how I do my promoted listings. Anything where it's like a one-off item, I don't like the promoted listings. I feel like you're just paying more money to eBay for something that I don't know how well it's going to help you. Maybe if it's like a super high-end card or something, you might want to consider it. But even then, if it is like a really high-end card that doesn't pop up very often, you're probably going to get organic traffic from people sharing that listing on Instagram, Facebook, wherever. So I don't think I would use it for auctions, but you could always test it out and see how it performs compared to other auctions that you run that don't have it. But I think you're going to get enough eyes on your auction without actually having to promote it and pay that extra fee. And then when you get into the I know you didn't talk about it, but when you get into like the paid promotions where it's by click, I like those even less. I would never do one of those where you're just paying per click versus the actual sale price.
Yeah, I like pay when it sells if it sells. I don't like the pay per click.
Yeah.
I think you're paying a lot less for the pay per click overall. I guess it all comes down to what your sell through rate is. If your sell through rate is low enough, you're paying less overall, or more overall. If your sell through rate is high enough, you'd be paying significantly less, I'm sure. But DNA asks, do either of you know if grab/mystery bags are popular in sports? If not, do you think that has something to do with the $10 to $12 floor price of PSA Pokemon cards? I just eBay searched it quickly. There absolutely are 1 random sports card, 100 random sports card, 1 graded. It's probably not as big of a thing, probably because there's just so many cheap $1 things out there. But in my opinion, I've always said this, we will have a future where there are $1 Pokemon slabs. It's an inevitability, in my opinion. The amount of plastic that's being, the amount of cardboard that's being encapsulated in plastic, it's just gonna get to that point where there's more than people care to own. I know that, you don't have the sports situation where a prospect doesn't pan out, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's Pokemon, someone's favorite. I don't care. We're still going to way overshoot, in my opinion. I think we're going to overshoot. You're going to have PSA 9 Charizards that are in $1 to $5 bins in 10, 20 years, I think.
PSA 9 Charizards for $1? I cannot see that happening. Maybe like lower grade 8 and below for modern Charizards, but 9 and 10, I don't think I can see that.
I see it.
I can't see that one. Especially Charizard. Maybe like an unpopular like Greninja Gold Star. Sure.
Essentially,
I don't know about Charizard.
Once you get down to like $7 on eBay, you're already in that territory. When you're talking sub 10 on eBay, that's really, by the time you pay the eBay fee, the shipping fee, all that, I would rather sell a card for $5, $4 in person cash than sell it for $9.99 on eBay. And I think we'll get there. We're already there on some PSA 9 Ultra Modern promos. Maybe not Charizard, but there's definitely a decent amount out there of some fairly popular species. Rusty talked about it at some point, that he had a bunch of like Espeons he graded from some of the decks. They're non-hollows, yeah. They're not like absolute chase cards, but that's all going to go. The floor is going to drop out at some point. I think PokeJace will stop buying everything at $10. I think he'll set his buy price to about $3 to $5 at some point.
Yeah, I can see it happening. With a lot of stuff, but like Charizard specifically, I don't know about. But with a lot of stuff, I can definitely see a case of that happening. I don't think it'll happen anytime soon, but at some point it probably will.
I think we're fully caught up with chat. We've only got 5 minutes left till we wrap up. So if there's any last minute questions you guys want to slot in, I will. I said before the last episode that I would get within 1 day. I'd get the audio posted to Anchor. And then the immediate next podcast that we had, the last one with retrospects, I forgot to do it the next day. I think I did it 2 or 3 days later. So if you're coming in late, if you want to listen to this audio only, I will have that up by tomorrow. I will actually hit my goal this time. But yeah, other than that, we're going to be live 2 weeks from today, should be. What's the date? We talked about it before the stream, but we kind of shook things up. We had back-to-back guests for the first time ever. I think on January 12th, we'll go live, just us. And then January 26th, we'll get the next guest. We don't have them lined up. We don't have them like formalized yet, so we're not going to announce, but we'll announce that next time. So to start off 2023, you'll have just Nick and I. Let's see if we had any new questions. No new questions.
Not seeing anything.
Anything to add in closing?
Chat's going quiet. No. Thank you guys for hanging out as always. We do definitely appreciate it. Hope all of you had a Merry Christmas and have a happy and healthy New Year.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, I don't see any new questions coming in, so we'll just end it there. We'll end it 3 minutes early. Hope everyone has a great, happy New Year, safe, all that good stuff, and we will catch you all